6 months. Oh, wow. 1 year, who is a year old as a supplier to NSSF. Oh, we have, you're the baby. Welcome. Welcome to our world. There's a lot for us to learn. Fine. So youngest is 1 year. Let's try and find out who the longest serving supplier here would be, who has been supplying NSSF for more than 5 years. Let's start from 5 years going up. Yeah, if you've been a supplier for more than 5 years, show of hands. Please indulge me. Okay, there's a bunch of people, 5 years. Anyone above 10? Anyone who has been supplying, 10 years. Oh, wow. Incredible, well done. Anyone more than 15? 15 years? Okay, so 10 years. Congratulations. Please give her a big hand clap. We expect, of course, that you are very compliant and that all your employees are serving with NSSF, so that's a very, very good thing, and we look forward to learning together. Now, without wasting too much time, allow me to welcome our head of procurement, Mr. Gerard Mugabe, who is going to come and lay the tone for our discussion this morning, but also to invite our acting managing director to come and tell us a little bit about the big picture of where we are going and what needs to happen. Mr. Mugabe has been the head of the procurement and disposal unit for a while now, and having joined more than 10 years ago, he's also worked with UNRWA, Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and he's a member of the Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply from the UK, and he also has 2 many qualifications to be able to list. If I go through all of them, he won't have any time to speak. So please give a very big hand clap to Gerald as he comes to get our morning started.
Good morning, everybody. It is always an exciting moment for us to interact with you. We take the pleasure to say thank you for sparing some time to come and be with us this morning. It is the 7th Supplier Forum. We're always happy to interact with you, to have feedback from you, but together to have a conversation that can forge the future of the fund and the future for your companies, respectively. I will be coming back to speak, but my role at the moment is to invite the acting MD, Patrick Ayota, to come and speak to us. He will give us a big picture of the fund. He will also tell you what he thinks you should contribute to the fund. Can we put our hands together to welcome Patrick Ayota?
Good morning. Oh, no. You know, I used to be a primary school teacher. There's something beautiful about being a primary school teacher. When you walk in that class and you say, good morning, how do they respond? Now, some of you would have got canes, eh? It was not that. It was much better. Good morning. They threw in, there's a little word, there's a three-letter word they threw, sir. Good morning. Even if you're broke, you do feel good. So that, now unless some of you are telling me that you didn't go to primary school, you kind of went through it, but that was actually something we did. So I'm just going to share with you a little bit about the fund. And the topic is global trends and sustainability. So I'll also tell you what is impacting the fund and some of the principles that as a fund we must do to survive. And hopefully some of those principles will trickle as you guys speak and share later on. So I'm going to try to spend as little time as I can because I know you have got more exciting speakers who are coming. So we'll just talk about, say, our vision, purpose, our vision. So it's a provider of choice. Whether on a voluntary basis, what we want you to do is to give you and make you so odd that when you sleep at night, you say, oh, thank God, my money is with NSSF. Now let's take that as a principle for your business. Can you provide that level of service that your customers, when you provide that service, that day when they go to bed, they can turn around and say, wow, I'm glad this person was my vendor. Certainly we expect when we've done all the things that we need to do with you, we'll go back and say, no, thank God this person is our vendor, as a principal. We have a purpose. A purpose helps you go beyond the profits of the company. What you want to do is to make a profit, but for what? For what reason are you there? We all have a reason why we're on this earth. And for us, in NSSF, is to make lives better by making savings a way of life. That's our purpose. We adopted it before. That's still our passion, that will get more and more Ugandans to save with the fund. These are our values. I will not so much talk about them because that's how we deliver our purpose. Our promise to our members, and this is what we call our customer value proposition. To you, safety, that your money is secure in two ways, both physically, but also against the erosion of value, for example, inflation. That's why we came up with, at any one point when we declare interest, it will be at least 2 percentage points above 10-year inflation. And the reason is when we do that, we preserve the purchasing power of your savings so that when you turn 55 and you come for your money, there is value that you've gotten on your savings. Number 2, convenience. And convenience for us just translates this: service anywhere, anytime, on any device, on any touch points. That anytime you want to get in touch with NSSF, access services, you can do it from the comfort of your home or in the office. Finally, empowered. That we need our members to be empowered, our staff to be empowered. This was tricky for a long time. The first 2 we delivered, and we're still delivering right now. The convenience determines the technology we are buying. So whenever we are looking at buying a technology, we have you as a member in our mind. How do we make it much easier for this member to access our services? The third one was tough, because some things we couldn't do because the law didn't allow us. One of the saddest things you had in NSSF is up today is somebody has 200 million shillings with us. His wife is sick and he wants to take that wife for medical treatment in India. But because the law was very prescriptive, we couldn't do anything for that member. We cried it together. But because the law is so prescriptive, it looked at the member being sick, not the member's dependent. So in January 2022, the law was amended to help now members begin to plan. You still can't touch the other money except for mid-term, but now you can save voluntarily for those emergencies. And we're coming up with products to help members do that. Even our staff, how do they get empowered? Now you think about those as your principles. What are your promises to your customer? What do you promise NSSF as a supplier? What's your value proposition to NSSF? And it's very important to do that because then guides you on the things that you want to do. So we set up what we call, in 2015, we set up 4 simple strategic objectives for us. We said by the year 2025, which is 2 years from now, would have made our members so odd that 95% of them would say, thank God we are associated with NSSF. Would have grown the balance sheet from 2015, it was 5.5 trillion to 20 trillion shillings. I'll tell you where we are on that. And then would have processed your benefits. Now we become so efficient that you can process the benefit in 1 day. At that time, it was 36 days. And then the people who engage with you would be as much engaged, our staff 95%. We think that if we focus on those 4 big objectives, we'll actually deliver value to the member. Now, where are we today? If you look at how we've performed, we have met our promise on safety. We've consistently given our members 2 percentage points above 10-year inflation. And you can see the latest one was actually in 2021. The inflation was 3.79%. We declared 9.65%. So we've met that. When you look at convenience, we made it easy for members to get it. Now, if you look at that graph, it tells you something. In 2020, for example, just at COVID, we basically served about, the battery were about 7,000, no, but we're taking 7 days. Now we're taking about 12 days, but we know what the problem is. But we're serving 46,000 members, twice what we did 2 years ago. And that tells you the convenience that we are bringing in that area. If you look at empowerment of members, the members are demanding much more. You can see we want to be 95%. By the end of 2022, we are 83%. We just got a survey from our members. Now we're back to 86%. And we know why it dropped to 83%. The parliamentary hearings, all of those things created some doubts in our members. And then we know the benefits. We are talking about the things that we want to bring to you so that it can help you in that process. But things have changed. And that's what you have to watch out for in business. Business doesn't stay stagnant because you have a lot of things that can happen to you and change your business. Look at us. Between 2012 and 2018, the Lee Bill, then COVID came, then we had staff restructure, midterm access, of course the war, parliamentary investigation. Right now, one of the things we are facing the worst is, you won't even believe it, the Kenya shilling has collapsed. And because we invest in Kenya, it is impacting our books. And by the way, you can't do anything about it. In fact, we pray the Kenya shilling recovers. But you can see that the number of things that are going to affect you that you don't even have prepared. Nobody prepared for COVID. We didn't know. It came out of the blue and suddenly the whole world shut down. And the things you can control, things you can't control, you cannot control. But I'm telling you one of the things that happened to your fund as a member. When COVID came, this idea of convenience, we had actually set up a system, and we're still developing it, where members could access our services anywhere. Staff could provide you services anywhere. 2 weeks after the country shut down, we were able to pivot, and 85% of our members, of our staff, worked from home to provide services to our members. In fact, during COVID, it would be so seamless that it was very interesting that it was seamless that we didn't even close down because we were able to be prepared in that case to provide services to our members. And for you as a business, that's a nimbleness you almost want to have because we don't know where the next pandemic will come from. We don't know where the next crisis will come from. We don't know what shows up next, and how prepared are you as a business person to do that? Now, I know when you're small, the challenges are even harder, but you think about it and plan it in the process. One of the things that's very interesting is, now remember you're talking about adapting. What we found out is very interesting. The darker blue line represents the benefits we are paying out now. The lighter blue represents, the darker blue represents the contributions we are getting from members. The lighter blue represents the benefits we are paying. Now look at 2013, 2014. It says that we're only paying 27% of the contributions we received. At that time, we received about 900 billion shillings. No, 900, is it? About 90 billion shillings in benefits. We're paying about 27% of that in benefits. We have about 90,000 in contributions. We're paying about 27% of that in benefits. Look at what happened in 2022. In 2022, we've actually hit close to 1.4 trillion shillings in contributions. But we've also paid out 80% of that has been paid out as benefits. And with the time, as members get older, what you're going to find is the monies that come in, basically you could easily end up paying it out in benefits, which means the only source of growth for the fund is going to be through investment and earnings. So even NSF has to adapt and change, because if we don't, that number is not sustainable, or that trend is not sustainable. So when we talk about adapting for sustainability, it's for all of us as businesses here. Let's look at a very interesting thing. Look at the assets under management. We grew from about 3.5 trillion in 2012-2013. By the end of 2022, we are 17.3 trillion. Now that is massive growth. I mean, talk to any business. You can't grow your balance sheet that much, that fast, that great. We actually did it. That growth is amazing. When we share these numbers, they cannot believe that. In less than 10 years, you almost more than grew the fund by 6 times the value you got. However, what we noticed, which is your graph on your right, is that if you look at the trend, the year-to-year growth, it kind of became very interesting. There's a point when we're growing at around 27%. But now, guess what? Last year, we grew at 11%. So we are growing, but at a decreasing rate. Now, part of it is attributed that now you have a much larger base, therefore you're growing at a much larger, but you're growing at a reducing rate. So it gives us a challenge that if we don't do something, we will actually get up into problems. And that's so these changes for us create for us the need to adapt. And I'm going to share with you a couple of things where now you plug in as part of our strategic way of surviving and being sustainable in this area. So these are the opportunities that came for us. The Amendment Act came, opened up savings for everybody. So now for you guys who have employees less than 5, guys, actually you have to comply. That's the law. But I'm going to tell you something that sometimes we miss, and we'll look at it later on. Many people do not think of the salary they pay their employees as investments. They think of it as a cost. Let me say that again. Many times you look at the salary you pay your employee as a cost. I want you to think of it differently. Think of it as an investment. The reason is when you begin to think of it as investments, you begin to think about just as you buy a product and say, I'm going to sell this product to a customer. I know this is how much it costs me, therefore this is what I need to sell it for to make a margin. Now think of your customer that you're investing in that. Think of your staff, you're investing in that staff. So if I invest this in my staff, what should I get from this staff? And when we begin to look at our employees as investments, it changes the way we look at things. And I can tell you something. The productivity of your employees will change. Even if she's a house girl. I have a houseboy at home. Amazing. This young man is really interesting. His name is Suleiman. Suleiman is one of these guys who, he has taken so much pressure off me because he's creative. You'll find, you'll come. The other time he came and said, you know, Papa, I need to buy this pump for spraying insects. I can buy the pump, you get me the overall and the boots. I know you're paying 350,000 shillings every time you bring somebody to come and they fumigate for you. I can do it here. I said, really? Yeah. So we spent 60, 70, we spent 110,000 shillings and we got a pair of gumboots, pair of overalls, gloves, a mask, and his pump and his medicine. And yesterday, he fumigated the entire compound and the entire house. Now, if you think about, for me, Suleiman is an investment. So we had a chat the other time. I said, Suleiman, now you are 25. Now, what do you really want to do? Yeah, Daddy, you know me, I want to drive. So I'm going to put him in a driving school because the more I look at him as investment, the more I'll be able to get out of him. And he'll be able to live a lot of things that we need. So that's a big thing that we have at this point. So that's the same thing with you. If whatever you're going to pay for your employee, whether it's Social Security, whether it's NSSF, whether it is what, think of it as an investment because it matters. You will not grow. Let me say, you will not grow beyond you. You will not. You only grow as you bring in other people's efforts, other people's energy, other people's intelligence. That's how your business grows. It never grows by you alone. It will grow up to where you are and stagnate. That's why people will say, no, this business is mine. I own 100% of it. Yes, it will not grow beyond you. So sometimes that's why you need partnerships to help you, that business grow. So low coverage, innovation, those are the opportunities for us, and then the economy needs long-term investments. So for us, we're looking at those are the opportunities for us. The challenges, we look at a lot of stakeholders to manage. We know there's competition from the private sector, the cyber crime and all kind of crimes that are going on, and the high unemployment rate. Now this one here is important. People save with us. We know people save the extra money they can spare. If you have high unemployment rate and you have got low business opportunities, where do people get the extra money? And that's why for us going forward, you're going to come and hear that over and over again is we decided on two things. The next 12 years, we'll not wait for this economy to create jobs for us. We are going to intervene and create jobs and create members for ourselves. That's why there is a high innovator product. We'll intervene in agriculture to help the farmers make more money so they can save with us. So that's the only way we're going to do it if we want to sustain ourselves in that area. So look at the challenges we have. Remember I told you our purpose is to make lives better by making savings over life. Right now we cover 10% of Uganda's working population. We can't be proud that we are saving. We only have 10% of Uganda's population, and we are bragging about that. We can't. If you look at the growth, we know there are a lot of problems. We just talked about Kenya. The investments are stressing. The shared values are the things that we need to do. So now coming to where you guys fit in. So we look at the area we talked about shared value. We know about the growth. We've actually set up our targets. We said by 2035, by then we've gone higher, and that's how we are planning. Remember we talked about 2025? We had the other 4. Now we're in 2035. We want to move that 10% dial from 10% of Ugandan saving with NSSF, 50% to 50% of working Ugandan saving with NSSF. That automatically tells you that we are not going to be depending on the formal sector. It doesn't mean that we're not going to depend. It means that we cannot depend on what the government says. We better go out there and in the informal sector, be relevant, create product, be with them, create jobs, intervene so that that percentage can go up and informs what we want to do in the process. The second, we talked about that. We want to grow the fund from 20 trillion shillings to 50 trillion shillings. And we'll get there. But we cannot do it doing the same things we are going to do. So how are we going to do this? We come to these areas that we are talking about, the ESG, the shared value. So now where you come through is, we know we can grow the fund. We also know that we can cover, but we cannot do it on our own. This whole area of partnerships comes in. And this is where, guys, you plug in, we need your help. That as you begin to interact and you supply, there are things that you're going to have to help us, because we cannot develop these things on our own. We have to develop it with partners that we have. Look at the labor force of Uganda. 35% are considered extremely poor. Then we have 30% moderately poor, 20% near poor, I don't know where you lie, and then about 15% there. So unless we tap into this population, we will not be able to do it. And we have to do it together and address the following. And I hope this helps you a lot. NSSF, we figured out one thing. We cannot do everything. We are not good at everything. We are good at some things. And that is true of your business. There are times when you're trying to do everything by yourself because you think you're protecting territory. No. The idea of partnerships are going to be key. We are not going to get to your staff except through you. So we encourage you to plug in. When we create the programs like High Innovate and we ask to be a service provider, be part of it, because in doing so, you help us meet our objective, but more importantly, you help invest in your employees. There are things that are going to be very critical, not just coverage. If your employee is your asset and you invest in them, what working environment are they working in? Oh, you're saying, no, it doesn't matter. They come, I give them money. And by the way, what you expect of them, they live up to it. If you expect nothing out of them, they live up to that. Expect much out of them, they live up to that. What's the working environment? So now we're very serious about this thing that our shared value goes beyond us. How are you treating your employees? How are you treating your staff? How about the gender issues? You may be only 1 or 2 staff in your company. Is it so comfortable that an intern, a young lady, an intern comes and works with you, and they are comfortable working in that place because you've created that environment where there's respect for everybody, whether or not you're a young lady or a young man. That's what we call shared value. So the issue of shared value is coming out more and more. And what you're going to find out is, as you guys bid for the contracts and so on, you'll see us begin to ask these things beyond your document. Are there things you're doing in terms of those shared value? Because the people you have working for you are your assets. And when they're your assets, they'll deliver exactly what we expect you to deliver. And that becomes key to the things that we want to share with you as we go forward. So today, as you guys look at the various things, we talked about adaptability and so on, but the one thing I'm going to tell you, for us Ugandans, we are so poor at partnering with each other, we think everybody will steal from us. I know we do. Actually, we do steal from each other. That's true. But pray you start, because we will not grow beyond you. That's the truth. Get partners. Look at your entire value chain and figure out who supplies what, where are they, how do I make that supplier so excited that they give me priority when I am doing this. I know we have our own issues with NSSF. Sometimes we take long to pay you. We pay. We just take long to pay because we have got procedures. So what you do is you plan on that. You know, do not promise somebody I'll pay you in 30 days when you know NSSF will take 60 days. You know, you just messed yourself up. So at least we are honest enough to say, okay, this is what we'll do so that you can actually keep your word and make it work for you. So as you guys go through and you're looking at sustainability, this whole issue of partnerships, even for NSSF is clear. There's no way we'll cover 50% of our population, about 5 million members on our own. We need you to plug in. We need you to comply. When it comes to the voluntary side, please plug in. And I'm going to tell you why that's important. Many of you know, as a small business, buying something like insurance is very expensive on your own. But if we begin to roll this out, come in, find out, tell us as you guys, if you come together as 100 suppliers, say, you know what, as a group, under NSSF suppliers, can we get policies, insurance policies, that gives us a little bit of health cover? And we can find that we can structure something and negotiate with insurance companies for a premium that's affordable for you. So if you get sick or your employee gets sick, it's not draining you because you're fundraising. Now there is a cover that helps them do it. And these things we can do together, because in doing that, it allows us to build then on the network we have and bring much more value to you, bring much more value to your employees. And by doing that and investing them, NSF benefits. Because a healthy worker, a more engaged worker in your company will deliver more for you, and in the process, deliver more for NSSF, because we are partnering in this together as a whole. And I think that will be my comment for now, letting you guys go through. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Another big hand clap for our MD.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. So a couple of things that have stood out, the most important being that, in case you hadn't noticed, the MD has just launched the NSSF Suppliers Association, and I would like to run as the inaugural president of the NSSF Suppliers Association. As you've heard, you said that if we get together, we can be able to go to NSSF and get help. So I would like to propose to you, ladies and gentlemen, that today we launch the NSSF Suppliers Association, and I am putting my name in the hat to be its first president. I think I don't hear any objections, so thank you. I shall lead you ably and very well. Some very important things that have been shared, the key ones being the fact that 10% of our society is under social security at the moment. More than 90% of our employable people are not saving with the fund yet. That's something we need to fix. We need to change. The other thing that bothered me from your presentation, Patrick, is the fact that more than 85% of our people seem to be struggling with poverty or there or nearabouts. Anyone who is in this room is probably in the other 15%. The only challenge with that is that the other 85% are depending on us to be able to sustain a lot of their needs. So even our capacity to save gets hindered because we have to pay black tax, as it is called, all the time. So very, very interesting thoughts coming from there. Before I invite our next speaker, allow me to introduce some very special people who are with us. Milton Ward, who is our Chief People Officer at NSSF. If you can kindly stand so that people can take note of you. David Masiko is our Chair of the Contracts Committee. You'll be hearing from him as well a little bit later on. Adrian Arizera, who is with Sibyl, one of the big IT companies, is here with us. You'll be hearing from him in a bit too. We also have Dr. Daniel Babikwa, who is with NEMA, and I'll introduce him in his full capacity in just a little bit. As we get on to our next stage though, not to preempt the person who is coming to speak next, but I learned this last year, and it's something that really bothered me, and it sort of sets the tone for what Gerald is coming to talk about to adapt to global trends. I was very happy to find out that 90% of all the suppliers at NSSF are local. So hand clap for yourselves. 95% of all suppliers at NSSF are local, so only 5% are foreign. In terms of value, 95% of all the value goes to foreign suppliers. So it's the, I like the look on your face. I saw someone burying his head in his hands. Let me repeat that for you, and then Gerald will come and give context to why it's important that we adapt to the global trends to reverse this trend. So NSSF gives 90% of all its contracts to local suppliers, okay? But all of us, 95%, only get 5% of the value. How do we change that? How do we adapt to global trends to ensure that we reverse that trend and get a bigger share of this pie? As the fund tries to grow to 50 trillion shillings, that presents a lot of opportunity for us. And it's what Gerald is coming to talk about. And so I'd like you to join me in giving him a very big hand clap as he comes to set the tone for how to adapt to global trends at this year's Suppliers Forum. Please give Gerald Mugabe a big, big hand clap as he comes.
Thank you so much. Some few years ago, I was in one of the biggest cities in South Africa, and in good moods, and we're talking big things. Can you project my first slide, like, please, can you? Because it is connected with what I want to say. Yes. So we were talking big things. And we were excited. We were excited because we were discussing that for the first time, Africa is going to be actively participating in the fourth industrial revolution. All the previous industrial revolutions have found us when we were sleeping. You can say no, but that's a fact, we were sleeping. And now the fourth industrial revolution, based on technology, have found us a bit awake. The question is our excitement going to be sustained? I projected that little lady, an African lady, to say, we have the future in you, especially the youth. You're the most innovative. You're born in a technology world, not like us. We expect you to deliver more. But do you have the right attitude? Do you have support from your companies? Do you have policies in Uganda that can support us? So my suppliers, what are you doing to make sure the dream that we have, that for the first time, Africa is going to participate actively in the fourth industrial revolution? What are you doing? That's the center of our question today. We shall together discuss it. And I think the experts from IT, from CBL, one of the big companies, will help us to give a fair shade of what they know can be done. Okay, I have seen some faces. I've seen some new faces. And just put into context of our presentation, I want to give us a journey of where we've come from. We started the concepts of Supplier Forum in 2016. And at that time, the biggest pain that we have in the fund was poor compliance by our suppliers. So we wanted to create awareness in the public bidding. How do you comply to be successful? Because what the MS has just said always gives us a huge pain that the big deals, the big business that all we have goes people who are compliant and are foreign. And I'm not against foreign people, no. When shall we? Remember my first question, it is our dream that for the first time, Africa, we are going to participate actively in the fourth industrial revolution. There's no way we can participate actively into this industrial revolution when we are poor, all right? We need money, all right? We need to be actively having money because it requires a lot of research. And then the little business that we have locally, again, in terms of value, you can see what happens. So we wanted to make sure that everybody participates actively and complies. Then in 2017, we wanted to show you some opportunities that you can grow your business through public bidding. Remember that it has the highest budget. We've just concluded the reading of the budget for the next financial year. So it is an opportunity for you to grab all of those numbers that have been read. It means that you have an opportunity that you can get some share out of it, all right? Then in 2018, our appetite for investment in real estate was increasing. I think all you can see what is happening in Temangalo, you can see what is happening in Rubowa, the skyscraper, I think the tallest building so far in town, the tallest building, all of them were around that. What we were looking for in 2018 is actually the partnership Patrick mentioned. So we talked about supplier collaboration and involvement. In 2019, the supplier of choice, that how can you position yourself to be a supplier of choice? In 2021, a call for the partnership and shaping the future together. And then in 2022, it was enhancing the competitive and growth. How do you enhance your competitiveness and your growth as a company so that we can meaningfully be our partners, all right? So that has been our journey. And for this year, we are talking about adopting to the global trends. So this is what is happening in the world. I know there are many tech companies around. No worries, we can share this information, especially when we go into question and answer session. And this is from the procurement perspective. I know the engineering may have some little bit of difference, but minimal. But this is what is shaping the world today. It is the digital transformation, the big data, artificial intelligence, sustainable and social responsibility, product customization. Today what we are talking about, especially from procurement perspective, that you are not going to produce anything for NSSF. Whatever you have, can you customize it to the needs of the business, that we can appreciate you, that you can enhance that competitiveness and say, guys, we have to deal with this. This is the person we are looking for. Customization of your products. And supply chain resilience and risk mitigation. Everybody knows what happened during when COVID hit us. How many farms were affected? How many farms that actually collapsed, right? Did they have any plan? We shall talk about this in detail later on. And of course, the last one which I always want is the relationship management. After this interface, is this the end of a talk and a conversation? Or shall we have a minute at create a more strong relationship with the fund, especially as we share our dream, our desires, our budget, which we are going to share with you today? Does it end here? Do you come to us only for business, get some fund and paycheck and then run away? Or you want to be part of our journey and say, guys, I see where you're going. This is what I can do. This is what Patrick was talking about. This is what we can do as a company. This is how we can work together. This is the conversation that we are going to have today, all right? But now, these are many. What we are going to do for today only, that we are going to pick only 3 trends and then talk about them a little bit in the details, and then other colleagues and speakers will complement. So the first one is transformation, digital transformation and artificial intelligence. That's what we're going to talk about. The second would be risk management and supply chain resilience, and the third one will be sustainability. Okay, why should we invest in these global trends? My first question, is Africa ready? Is Uganda ready to participate meaningfully in the fourth industrial revolution? All right? This is it. And the answer is clear. It is time for Africa and your company to be part of this journey. Unless you say, guys, me now, in my dream, in my thinking, it is time for Africa. It's time for Uganda. It's time for you as an individual or a company to be part of this fourth industrial revolution. The benefits are clear. It increases convenience in service delivery. Of course, that is perfect. I'm not an agent of MTN, but if there is any representative, thank you. MTN, thank you. I know there are some few gaps that you have, but it has a lot of convenience with the Momo. I'm on my bed, I'm able to pay electricity, water bills, DSTV, and instantly reconnected. Some of the service providers you pay, and then you have to call them and say, guys, I paid, have you not seen my money? Please, can you connect me? Right? It increases convenience, but behind it is actually the robotic system that is able to automatically, even at night when everybody is sleeping, is able to do this work. And that's the level of technology that these guys have invested around us, right? The quick decision making, that will take a little time to take a decision, because especially in terms of what to stock and what can you project in terms of your demand. I always have challenges in the evening after crossing through the jam. There is somewhere where I sit, right? And I have, after several years, there is an old soft drink I had abandoned. It's called Pepsi, right? I like it. I like it chilled. I like it with lemon, right? So sometimes I sit there waiting for it, cross my legs and say, hi, I need this with this and this and this to eat. And then the lady smiles at you. He says, yes, I'm bringing it in a few minutes. And then she comes back again in a humble way and say, sorry, we don't have it. It is out of stock. It is because we don't have data. You don't have accurate data, the real stock, that's a system that you can monitor your stock movement. Now, as in your companies, you know this, you have done this. Sometimes you say to the client that actually you have 3 items maybe remaining. And then you go on the back end, you go into the stores and say, we are sorry, we don't have this over, right? So it frustrated the customer. So we need to invest into digital. We need to invest in data. Flexibility in work environment, you know what happened in 2020 when COVID hit us? It's only some of us, like NSSF, that had invested a little bit meaningfully into this area, that were able to support the organization and the public, wherever we are, remotely. And that is ubiquity, that you can access and do your work from anywhere in this country or outside even the country. Actually, in terms of inventory management, we've talked about it. And the outcome is increasing the competitiveness, right? And your growth, of course. So please, we want you to make sure that you are part of this journey, right? So what we think that you can start with is to invest in the right technology, the right structures, and of course the people that you need in order to help you in terms of performance of your company. Now, the biggest countries in terms of technology, we are just sharing this, is South Africa. I think South Africa has visited, I was looking at the literature, and look at the position of Uganda. South Africa has invested more than $1 billion into technology. And of course, they're the lead in terms of artificial intelligence. Nigeria is second, Egypt is third, and Kenya, our neighbors, you've seen them on BBC and what they're advertising in terms of the technology. Uganda doing fairly well, but you can see the number of companies that have invested in technology are only 44 in terms of artificial intelligence. So what does this mean to say that if there is something that we can do better, we need to look at our neighbors. Look at our neighbors in the same area, same environment. They are among the top 4. Uganda is 10th, right? Of course, there are these other little companies that are, countries that are below us, but we cannot celebrate when you're in that middle position. So our dream is, maybe Patrick said this, and some other speakers are going to say this. Is this a time for us to put our hands together to invest into this? Maybe as companies in Uganda that we can improve these numbers. We are going to share with you some numbers in terms of the little things that we've done and the great things that we've done, but also we can compare it with the global trends, and we see, I think we still have some little gap, but we can still have the big hope that we have, that we can make meaningful investment in this area, and we can also be part of the journey that we talked about. Now, the case for Uganda, there are quite a number of IT solutions that have been developed with locally, and thank you IT firm that are here. Notably, for instance, the e-procurement system, and I was one of the people that actually vetted that system, was locally made by Chambogo lecturers. I went through it, what it was able to do, and I say, I think let's begin with this. It may not be perfect 100%, but let's begin with our own. So thank you tech company that are developing solutions that addresses the challenges of this country. And I was impressed when I was researching and finding out that in Kyambogo, there are students that came up with a project and they're able to make a robotic security system in Kyambogo. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And there are those, of course, in Makerere. You have heard about the growth in technology in terms of the space technology in Uganda. You've heard about the Uganda first electric vehicles in Kira. You've heard about the mobile money to the extent that in 2022, we were able to transact 145 trillion worth of transaction mobile money, right? I think this is great. And the integration is that in every system that's able to do. That's the convenience that we talked about. The digitization of the health records and better management by Ministry of Health. I will talk about, notwithstanding the progress that we've done with URA in terms of digitization of their processes, URSSB, of course, NSSF, and so on. We've done well, but this is not the best we can offer. We can come together and I think do better. NSSF, this is what we've done. If you come to NSSF, you will not see paper. You will not see these papers, all right? We've digitized every little thing, and 95% of our processes are paperless. Deployment of robotic process in terms of automation of electronic payments, the online chatbots and mobile service. We can even respond to you when we are sleeping. There is a chatbot that can respond to you in terms of, especially in terms of our customer service. Self-service portals, we are no longer having queues in the banks for people who are paying. You can still do it online. You can see your balances online. You can see your statement online without coming to our building. This is what we are doing. But the High Innovator project, and this is a good thing for you, we have set aside 11 billion for innovations that we can support you. Sorry, I have a little bit of cold. We can support you if you come up with an innovative project that can benefit both the fund and your company and this country. So one of the questions I asked when I was starting this conversation was, do we have finances to support innovations in Uganda? NSSF, we have started with, and in partnership with, I'm forgetting the company that is it SmartCard? It is pardon? It's MasterCard, yes, it's MasterCard Foundation. MasterCard Foundation, we have put aside 11 billion for you that we could use in terms of investment into innovation, please. Can you use this part of the money to improve our technology so that in the future we can also celebrate together? And air requisitioning and e-sourcing, all of this has been automated. This is what NSSF has been able to do. If we had a time, we would call each company to share their experience. But let's use one of our partners, Sibyl, to tell us what they are able to do. Now, supply chain risk management. You know, McKinsey said that supply chain has always been vulnerable. In other words, your suppliers and the suppliers will all have issues at one time. And when I'm talking about this, just look at what happened in 2020 and 2021 when there was global disruption of the supply chain. We couldn't get anything almost in Uganda until we started waking up a little bit and started manufacturing some few things, right? Now, McKinsey says, it's a known. It is a known unknown. It is a known unknown that will be disruption. But we don't know how it will actually manage and how it will, the intensity of disruption that will be in the supply chain. What is important for you, and this is a message from me to you, is that you need to know the disruption that will happen. And then you make a plan to mitigate the risks that is there. And potentially, the global pandemics will affect your supply chain, right? The political conflicts, the wars, you know what is happening in Ukraine, it will affect you. The disruption by technology, it will affect you. But what plan do you have in your company? Just in case this happens, this is what I will do. I think that's what we miss always in Uganda, in Africa generally. We only plan, and then in the evening we say, God, please bless our plans. We've done our part, right? We don't have any mitigation that in case this happens, this is what I will jump to. So it's my request that from today, yes, whatever you are doing may be great. You can make a call, you can send an order from China, and the goods will be delivered, isn't it? Right? You can have, if you are, for instance, if you had some supplies from Kasese of recent, you know what has happened. You may get some shock that actually your supplies cannot come through. It is already disrupted, right? That these disruptions will happen. But what plans do you have that in case when this happens, this is what you'll jump to? And our recommendations, among others, is that please diversify your supply base, all right? If you know you're getting things from, say, Kenya, think of another neighboring country. If you're picking items, most of the items are from, say, China, you also have contacts in Turkey, such that when there are issues in China, you're able to run to Turkey. You know, we had a horrible situation in 2021. We made orders for, I think, there were cars, about 11 cars. And you know, our cars were already exhausted. We could not go in the field. So we made orders through a company X, which I will not mention, all right? They told us that in 4 months, actually, they would deliver. But they didn't go behind. They didn't go beyond their knowledge of the supply chain and their tier one, because that is tier one. You say, I don't want to use Toyota. Toyota is tier one in Uganda. But the vehicles are not manufactured in Uganda. They are manufactured in South Africa and Japan. That is tier two. But also in tier two, there is tier three, because they are also manufacturers of the engine, they are manufacturers of the tires, manufacturers of extra, all right? That is tier three. But there is tier four, actually the supply of materials. Now, my message to you is that at what extent do you go deep into their supply chain, those tiers? Or you just look at, okay, we buy bed sheets from say, Turkey, and that's it. You don't know who supplies them the materials. You don't know where the cotton is coming from. It may be coming from Uganda. So when Uganda gets a problem, you also don't get the supplies from Turkey, right? So it is, and of recent actually had started that you need to unveil your tier system. If you're supplying us, we say, toner, from which company? Who makes the toner? They are distributors, they are stock lists in Uganda, okay? They are distributors in Uganda. Who supplies you toner? Who manufactures it? They get your supplies from where? Where do they get them? So when you go through that, it helps you to know that potentially there could be a disruption that will affect your business, isn't it? In case there is one area into your supply chain that is disrupted, it means that actually your output, your performance and business will also equally be affected. So to what extent do you study the tier system with the supply that you have? To what extent is the question that you will help me to answer. Enhance collaboration with these suppliers through digitization so that you can know what is happening in their area, in their space. So that in case there is a problem from the other side, you quickly jump into alternative B. Put in place a risk mitigation plan. This is the message that we have, that we think is good for you. As I say this, of course, it is a challenge to us, sometimes the buyers, especially with our rigidities in terms of the law, that can I, for instance, award 2 contracts? If company X doesn't supply, I quickly jump to company B. So we need to think, and regulators maybe we need to think in such a way that because government business is to deliver service to the people. So if company X has been affected because of the risks within their supply chain, should we lament? Should we penalize them? Or we should be agile and quickly go to company X? All right? So that is the conversation that we can have, and we are glad that in case you come up with ideas on how we can do this. The benefits are obvious. We provide consistent sums of supplies, and we have a reliable customer base. You increase the market edge, and of course, you minimize your financial losses. But please, this is a message that you can take and integrate into your business models. Now, in the past, your supply chain, and I hope those who are not technically, well-grounded in procurement language, when I say supply chain, it shouldn't be something that it is so scary. A supply chain is a series of the participants into the supply of the item that you have in an ordinary language. So, and that's what I'm talking about, the tier system. The tier system, you have an item that you sell, say laptops. right? That is tier 1. The second tier is who manufactures those laptops and who manufactures the spare parts of those laptops. And then where the items, the supplies, the little items like the chips of recent years have been a big crisis, where do they come from? You know, when we had some issues in Congo, what happened in terms of manufacturing, storage, equipment, and IT. And yet the problem was here. And everybody was complaining about HP, isn't it? So that's the tier system. So what I'm talking about, the supply chain, is that chain of participants into delivery of your products. I just wanted to explain to that for people who don't have a background in procurement. So traditionally, your supply chain is characterized by this. You focus on your service, isn't it? That I need to provide a quality service. You need to also look at the cost implication because you need to be competitive, and also the capital requirement. This has been the tradition. But because of these global trends, we are making some few changes. We are focusing on now your ability to be agile. And we've mentioned it in terms of risk management, that if there is a challenge, how can you quickly jump onto an alternative? Resilience, that even if when you're hit hard, you can still come back. I don't know how many companies collapsed in Uganda, but the numbers were quite shocking, right? I know that for the fact. If you go to, I'm a fan of Garden City shopping because I think it was the center of everything. How many shops have closed of recent? If you go there, you see there's no business, right? It was because they were not resilient in terms of response to the shock actually of COVID, right? They're out of business. And of course now, the big thing in the house is about sustainability. So please, we need to integrate all of these issues into our business models. And this is the topic that I want to talk about. I'm passionate about it. And of course, my colleague Daniel will talk about sustainability. And I will begin with this number that is scaring in terms of the global warming. This is what was happening some years ago in 1888. We were negative in terms of temperature change. We are currently about in 2020, the temperature is increasing at more than 1.1%, and this is a huge threat to human life. But there is one interesting thing, and this is what has happened in terms of this. Over 6.7 million, according to the literature, deaths every year because of the exposure. 2.4 people who are under polluted fuel. 26% with the forest cover in Uganda. Sorry, yes, and 2.6, and there is a decline in forest cover equivalent to 2.6 in this country per year. And it is because of me and you who are contributing this. And yet we always dream into that environment where you can have fresh air. We need good water. We need good health. I like tenure. He says that we are the first generation to know we are destroying the planet. And that the last one that can do anything about it. When I was putting this together, I had paraphrased it and said, we are the first generation to know we are destroying the planet and we continue doing it. True, false? And that we can be the only generation that can protect it again. When I came here and looked at the number of bottles in the house, I said, wow, in the evening they're going to end in Lake Victoria. Isn't it? Now, in your company, what are you doing exactly? When I go to Chikovo, I know exactly what happens. Isn't it? We are the generation that is aware that we are destroying the planet and the environment that we need. But we continue destroying it, including today. Congratulations. But from today, we can be part of this journey again to say we can protect this environment and this planet. Look at this great man. This is a typical Ugandan, by the way. So he wakes up, gets his axe, he sees trees around. You know, in most cases, if there was sunshine outside and we went out, everybody would come closer to the trees, isn't it? In the shade, eh? Yeah? So this great man, he wakes up and says, let me put these trees down. God, I think, was not very sensible to put them near me, isn't it? But below it, there is a great lake called Lake Victoria and the River Katonga. River Katonga is popular these days. I didn't know it, but now it's a very popular river. River Katonga, you know River Katonga? And what has recently challenged the human technology and human brains. Now what happens, he cuts them all down, he goes to sleep, and then at night, the water says, okay, I'm coming for you now. It is because the regulator of the temperature has been cut off. The temperature now is hitting directly to the water bodies. There is high vibration. There is heavy rain, what we're explaining, and then we have floods all over. River Katonga is a consequence of this, right? So are we okay? We are the generation who understand that we're destroying the environment, but continue doing it. Interesting also is that the food production is the major driver for wildlife extinction and loss of forest cover. So should we eat less? This is the reality. Now, I always go through the cattle corridor. These great men and women have cut every tree around to create space for the cows, isn't it? What happens again, all the rivers have dried. And also cows have, especially during the hot season. So what are you doing in your company? Forget about what I'm talking about, citing these few examples. The question is, you, as our partner, what are you doing? And then there is a huge conflict. The huge conflict is that agriculture actually contributes 24% of GDP, and 33% of the foreign earnings. It is from there. And it employs, of course, 62% of Ugandans. But its impact is creating extinction of a human being. If we don't innovate quickly, it is taking our lives also, like this younger man, all right? So what we need to do, I think, is to reinvent, and that's why we should think as Ugandans that we need to get an alternative source of income, because those peasants actually, I'm sorry to say, it is for survival. Their income base is so low, they can't survive without cutting these trees. So we need to get an alternative for them, yeah? And then the technology about solar, technology about distribution of electricity, and also an alternative way of survival. The world has moved away from this soil and earth that we are doing currently, depending on 62%. It is the world of technology, isn't it? The greatest companies, my friend here, George, will tell you, and any statistician will tell you, the richest men are not people in agriculture. No, it is the tech people. So can we get alternatives? Can the younger generation, my first slide, wake up and do something that can transform Africa, can transform Uganda? So adopting the modern techniques and high productivity capacity in agriculture and getting alternative source, I think, can help us save the planet, can help us save our future. That is not Uganda, of course. That must be somewhere else, isn't it? If there was not that police vehicle, that was not Uganda, isn't it? Can you trace? You remember that day, that horrible day, when it was an overflood? This is the impact of what exactly being insensitive to protect the environment and the planet is causing to this country. Yeah? And don't say it is those people. You know, we Africans are very nice. We always push the things from somewhere to someone else. It is those industrial companies. But check around the environment. Check up what you are doing in your company exactly, and see if you're not responsible for unachievable floods. Is that nice? That's the impact that we have had. And the Great Katonga had to give way because the river there is silting, there's a lot of rubbish from plastics. We need to do something, me and you, isn't it? This is my biggest campaign. Is me still around? The owners of this hotel, are they around? By God's grace. Hey, yes, sir. You are here. Come closer. You are my friend. Manager, we are talking about sustainability and the future of our life. We need to move away from the great plastic that you've decorated these tables with. Why do you put them in the evening? So we are the last consumers of this bottled water. He's a very intelligent man. I promise you one thing, sir, that unless you convince me and subject to my due diligence, no more business for you as long as you continue using these plastics. Can you give me a sample so that I pause with it? Okay, please, some two for me and customize it for this supply. Yes. So we need to move away from the plastic that are killing the environment to bottle the water. And I'm very happy with Aqua bottling company, Aquasip. Is it Aquasip? Aquasip, something. They're already innovating and started making reusable glass bottles. Yes? The stats are so horrible. Actually, the world produces 42 metric tons of plastic every year. And we are part of this journey. We are part of this. What we want, I think we need reusable glasses that we can sustain this environment. I think if there was, which water is this? This is Wava. Wava, my friend, please change the technology. And Renzoli Bottling Company, change the technology. We are killing our own environment. It will deplete our livelihood, our income, have given numbers, our agriculture, everything, especially given that we are not a technology-led company. We are not a leaders in technology. That's a fact. We're not even the first adopters of technology. So we need to reinvent ourselves and do something that is within our capacity and protect the environment. So my message is this, that traditionally you manufacture and run away, you don't bother about yourself, what happens next. But the world is saying that we need to manufacture and recycle. So supply chains are changing from straight line to circular, cyclic, right? You manufacture, you distribute, you recall. Actually, if these companies were brilliant, they would have an arrangement that in the evening they come and collect all these bottles and take them for recycling. At least that, right? So manufacture, distribute, recycle. It's my humble prayer to you that we adopt this approach, right? Whatever you're producing, pick interest in whatever rubbish that you're producing, in your little kiosks, in your big companies, in your big offices. Can we get modalities and mechanism of recycling it and putting it together and protect the environment? Thank you. So this is our summary of our message. That we request you to invest in IT because of the excitement we started with, all right? That it is for the first time Africa is going to participate actively in the fourth industrial revolution. We request you, and the second prayer that we had with Patrick, if necessary, can we come together and do some research, R&D, that we can do something for this country. Our promise and our commitment is there. We've disclosed our budget for innovations. We can work together and do something for this country and for Africa in general. Start initiative to reduce the carbon footprint and, of course, the plastics. There's that campaign which I support, and we are going to partner, I think, with New Vision and any other person interested in that area. Start planning and mitigate your supply chain risks to withstand the disruptions that from the geopolitical shifts, the pandemics, and other potential disruptors. Information sharing and joint problem solving will ensure resilience and meet customer demands, and we expect that investing in training programs and continuous improvement in your company would give you a competitive edge. Bring a bottle. Thank you. Now is my friend. Can you clap for him, please? Please, whoever is on my table, excuse me, your ushers should change, should pick away all those plastic bottles on my table and replace them with this. This is what we need. Yes, okay, this is very good. You can tell them even to customize them for you and put a brand on this is what we need. Thank you. So this is our message, and I'm happy that we are doing some few things. So go back into your companies and do something also. And then, of course, lastly, you always like to see what is ahead in terms of the potential businesses that you can grab. We have 1.7 trillion allocated to investment in real estate. you may say, oh my God, that's a lot of money. The design is for Webaja government campus is almost over by close of this year. So we expect in the next financial year, we may, if we don't get another disruptor, we may begin putting together and looking for firms that are capable into the construction of the campus for government in Webaja on Entebbe Road. So this is the big thing for you. Even if you don't have a capacity to, as an individual firm, begin looking for partners that are credible, that you participate meaningfully. This is always our cry and our prayer, that these faces here in this house are part of this. They should be able to grab a coin out of this, isn't it? That is construction, that is real estate, that is an estimate that we have. IT, technology, I think the firms are here. We have about 36 billion that we are going to spend next financial year. Look for the details. We said that it's a partnership that we're going to have, and look for somewhere you can grab something and take it home, isn't it? But also, it's not about grabbing something from us. It is the partnership and creating solutions that are reasonable, that can help us grow together. And that is always our message. For those investment in furniture and fittings, we have 2.7. And I think vehicles are part of that, some vehicles that we're going to buy. Professional consultancies, if you have brains here, professional consultancies is a huge budget of about 12 billion, but because of supervision, partly supervision of real estate, but any other business that you can think that we can help us to do better and understand our problem better, please, you're welcome to participate and able to be part of our journey. We have 5 billion for insurance. Are there insurance companies here? Most likely, yes. Are there insurance companies here? You have 5 billion for you. And advertising, I know they are here. We have again 5 billion for you. With that, I say thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
A big hand clap for Gerald, please. So technically, the most important slide for today for us should be this one here. This is where the opportunity really is. If you're looking at how much money the fund is planning to be spending, that 12 billion shillings on consultancy, there's a lot of money. The people who deal in furniture and fixtures, your Christmas is sorted. Those of us who are in media, advertising and promotions, clearly a big chunk of money as well. But the investment in real estate and new projects, that's quite a lot of money, 1.7 trillion shillings. That's going to be available for suppliers to be a part of. So again, lots and lots of opportunity for you to be able to partake of, and hopefully you can be able to pick a leaf from the key things that Gerald has talked about, us being sustainable and AI and what it is doing. I hope that all of us are now aware of what AI can do. It actually makes work so much easier. I think maybe about 30 to 35% of all my work now is done using ChatGPT and things like that. So there's a whole bunch, maybe about 6 or 7 different AI tools that I'm currently using that have made life so much easier. It almost makes you lazy. You just type a thing and the thing gives you a full presentation, even with graphics. I wouldn't be surprised if Gerard's presentation was done using AI. You know, it's become that good that now you just feed it information and it will do everything for you. But most importantly, he talked about us being the first generation to know that we're destroying the planet and the last to do something about it. And I'd like to welcome someone who is going to come and share some knowledge on where we are, especially as a country. I think Uganda is one of those unique countries where I don't want to say we were bewitched, but the way we behave sometimes is absolutely shocking. So we live in one of the most beautiful countries on the planet. And yet the reckless abandon with which we disregard the beauty of our country is sometimes shocking. I was at a beautiful beach somewhere in Buyukwe 2 weeks ago. Wonderful place called Musana Camps, where they have these wonderful white sand beaches. And it was very interesting to wake up in the morning very early at 6 to go to the beach, you know, just to sit at the lake and reflect on my life and what I'm going to do with my midterm access. And all of a sudden, you've got all of these plastic bottles that are just washing up. And I'm sure some of them were coming from Tanzania, because when you look at them, you could see the plastic bottles you have on your tables. So some of them, I think, end up on the other side of the lake. Some of the ones from Tanzania come to our side. And it's just shocking that we have become that irresponsible with this wonderful gift that God has given us called Uganda. And so I'm going to ask the Director of District Support Coordination and Public Education at the National Environmental Management Authority to come and shed some light on what we need to do to be sustainable as we run our businesses, and the case of Uganda, what can be done better. Please welcome with me Dr. Daniel Babikwa as he comes.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank the organizers for giving us an opportunity to share with you about what we do and what we should be doing. This is an important meeting because we are talking about what matters to all of us. Whether we like it or not, it affects us. My presentation is about sustainability initiatives to protect the planet, the case of Uganda, and what can be done better. Have an outline there. We'll talk about development, sustainable development, sustainability, why are we concerned about the environment, the complex interrelationships between about the sustainable development debate. Then we'll also talk about specifically the policy and legal frameworks to ensure sustainability, and other initiatives like the Kampala Pollution Control Task Force, cleaner production initiatives, cleaner development mechanism, energy sector mechanism initiatives, educational development, eco-schools, regional centers of expertise, community-based and people-centered initiatives, all meant to address the issue of sustainability. But as we get there, I like this quotation by Mahatma Gandhi. He said, "The world has got enough resources to meet the needs of every citizen, but not their greed." Friends, you notice that most of the causes of unsustainable behavior is not need, but greed. And you notice that because of the greed, we have done a great disservice to the environment, to nature, and to ourselves. Yes, the issue of the first generation is coming back again. We have destroyed the environment without knowing what we are doing it, and we're saying our ancestors could have held, but it was largely because of need and not greed. Then David Orr says, the truth is that without significant precautions, education can equip people merely to be more effective vandals on the earth. If one listens carefully, it may even be possible to hear the creation groan at every graduation ceremony when another batch of smart, degree-holding, but ecologically literate Homo sapiens who are eager to succeed are launched into the biosphere. What are we saying? What we are saying is that the problem is us. And unfortunately, those of us who are educated, who have not played our role, our education has not had the kind of impact it should have had in preserving the planet. These are challenges which we need to address, and I will try to share with you. Now, one of the biggest issues we need to address here is that every one of us here talks about development. It's an in thing, it's a statement which everyone loves and tries to do. But development can be understood in different perspectives. Some people look at development as economic growth, modernization, as a top-down technocratic wealth creation driven processes. Now that means in such development, the issue is how much I get from there. The issue is how much wealth I accumulate. You see, human beings cannot be developed. Human beings develop themselves. If you try to develop them, they become like buildings. They will not be able to think, they will not be able to understand and make decisions. Now, development, where there is development, there is one challenge now. Most of the development we have had over years has been unsustainable. Unsustainable in that it has been able to bring us the immediate benefits without taking into consideration the long-term costs. And what has happened in the end, we have spent so much time making money which either we spend in hospitals as we die, or money which we waste again trying to heal the wrongs we have created. Sustainable development, as you may know, is about development which makes sure that we meet the needs of our current generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Unfortunately, many times the developments we undertake think about the present and not the future. And the more you think about the present and not the future, you are not considering that those generations which came before us, we are more understanding and more reasonable than most of us are now. When we talk about, see, I'm supposed to talk about sustainability. And when we talk about sustainability, I know most business people, when you talk about sustainability, they think about, can I continue making profits for how long? A business is sustainable when it continues generating profit. But from our perspective, as environmentalists, our argument is different. Sustainable development has 3 pillars. One is the environment, the economy, and society. And the needs of the 3 must be balanced. The needs of the environment must be balanced, because the environment, as you will see later, is the storehouse where all our resources are kept, which we use to build an economy, which economy is meant to meet the needs of society. Why are we very concerned about the environment? I've just said it. The environment stores most of what we need to survive. And if we don't take due consideration of it, we are actually cutting or destroying the hand that feeds us. If you look at Uganda, for example, most of the resources, we're saying that 90% of the energy, for example, is from natural resources. 9% of exports are from natural resource based, and many others. Our population, 79% of our population is rural, and depends directly on natural resources. So there is no way we can afford to ignore the importance of the environment at any rate, because the environment will always retaliate if it's mishandled. I have this diagram here. It talks about the complex interrelationships of sustainable development. Sustainable development, if you look at this diagram, at the center, there is something like not so much a triangle and not so much of a house, but has got directions. One, at the bottom here, you have the biophysical world. Somewhere here, you have the economic world. Here, you have the social world and the political world. The biophysical world, if life was a house, it makes the foundation of that house. And the foundation is the storehouse of the resources that build the economy. But why do we build an economy? We build the economy to meet the needs of society. And now, there's another actor here, politics. We cannot separate environmental management or sustainable development from politics. Why? Because politics is about managing people and resources. You subtract resources from politics, people would not want to be politicians anymore. But the moment politics remains the way it is, it has a role to play in making sure that the resources are managed properly for the good of society. Unfortunately, the common tendency now is to spend a lot of effort talking about economic growth. How much money do we make? And we forget, where do we get the resources that help us to make this money? The moment you fail to balance these ones, you are creating a crisis where you get exploitation. Automatically poverty will come. People have no jobs, because most, as we said, over 79% of our people are employed within jobs which are related to environment and natural resources. When there's a crisis in this setup, there will be no peace. Conservation must be a priority if we must have peace. A time will come when people will begin conflicting over resources. And to be able to do that, to be able to avoid that, we need to consider very carefully that balance between the environment, the economy, and society. The environment has been referred to by many people as the life support system. It's the oxygen, it's the water, what helps us to move on. Now, what have we done as a country to address the issues of sustainability? We must remember that right now, we are actually in the age or in the era of sustainable development. From 1972, the world has been building momentum towards sustainability, but we have not been moving fast enough. And because of that, different states are putting up laws. Uganda has not been left behind in this. Uganda has set up laws, policies, and plans to ensure that sustainability is taken care of. And the reason we are emphasizing laws is that as human beings, we are used to being handled the crude way. especially us here in Uganda, and maybe in Africa, most African countries, there's a common tendency of people not wanting to do the right thing. They are happier being forced to do what they want to do. Some time back, I was teaching in a university in Norway, and the professor told me that Norway did not have a law on forestry until about 30 years ago. But they went ahead and have some of the best managed forests in that country, in the world. I asked, how did you manage it? He told me, it's because we developed a practice. Here we have a challenge. We don't develop practices, or the practices we develop are selfish-oriented. They are based on our personal interests, and where we don't benefit as individuals, we don't do what we're supposed to do. Now, in a way of ensuring that sustainability is achieved in this country, it starts with our Constitution. Our Constitution has been very clear from the beginning. It says that the state shall promote sustainable development and public awareness of the need to manage land, air, water, and resources in a balanced and sustainable manner for the present and future generations. So whatever we do, at least in principle, our government has been very clear that whatever we do is for the current and future generations. What we do as individuals, as business entities, may differ, but that means we are deviating from the principle and from the laws, from the policy framework of this country. We have quite a number of laws in place to ensure that environment and natural resources are managed well, that the planet is kept intact. If you look at them, a list of them, just quite a number of them, very many. So many laws are in place. But when it comes to implementation, we have a challenge. We have a challenge because of a number of things. One, I don't know what has happened, but in the last maybe 2-3 decades, there's a spirit which has come to take over Ugandans. We have become very rebellious, and we are very proud when we break the law. I work in a regulatory agency, NEMA, but one of the things we encounter on a day-to-day basis is that intransigence, that rebellious spirit. Somebody will be very proud when he says no to the right thing. And this has continued to destroy the environment, to make life unsustainable, to make our economies unsustainable. I have a simple example which I normally give people. About 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, there used to be a common talk when the Minister of Finance, I think by then was Madam Honorable Saida Bumba, she would say, coffee has been overtaken by fish as foreign exchange earner number one for this country. Today, they don't talk about it anymore. What happened? What happened then, when we were praising fish, we never considered the processes. We caught so much fish, used the wrong methods, now we don't have fish. Some of the industries we created then are actually historical monuments. The factories from Rakai to Busia, some of them don't have any fish at all. Why? Because we never thought sustainably. And right now, the resources we are using to stop the bad practice are actually not necessarily from the money we made then. The money we made then, we don't know where it went. Now we are borrowing money, we are getting money from other sectors. Some international agencies are coming up to help recover this industry which we killed ourselves. So we are saying it's very important as a nation to consider the issue of sustainability. Look at the resources you have. Most of the resources are finite. We can finish them and they will be exhausted. The fish I ate as a child, I come from Kalangala. The fish I ate as a child, my children may never eat it. Even some species have disappeared completely. And not only the fish, even the trees in the forest, they are gone. So we are saying that's why we have the laws. Accompanying these laws, we have the institutional framework to ensure that the laws are implemented. And at the apex of management of the environment to ensure sustainability, we have the Policy Committee on Environment, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. And he or she, whoever he is at the time, is at the top. And it involves 15 ministries. It involves 15 ministries to ensure that all issues of the environment are catered for in the different sectors, in all the different sectors. But unfortunately, not much as we have the frameworks, the actual implementation of the frameworks has been lacking for a number of reasons. To some extent, environment has been looked at as a cross-cutting issue. And when you are cross-cutting, the tendency is for people to think that you belong nowhere. It comes to resource allocation, the resource allocation is very poor. If we know that environment is the basis of our existence as a nation, and you look at the budget and see how much goes there, we have a problem. So we talk so well about it, but when it comes to doing it, we have some gaps which need to be corrected. Now, to be able to ensure that environment is managed properly, government set up institutions. And among the institutions we have is NEMA, the National Environment Management Authority, which was established by Act of Parliament in 1995, with a clear mandate to coordinate, monitor, regulate, and supervise all activities in the field of the environment. That's NEMA's work. But unfortunately, NEMA is understood for other things. You talk about wetlands, they say, where is NEMA? It's not one of the activities we're supposed to do, by the way. We have quite a number of functions, I'll not go through them, but one of them is that we are supposed to make sure that every development in this country integrates environmental concerns in its plans. That's why we demand for environmental and social impact reports, so that we can approve the development to ensure that whatever you do, as we know, whatever we do in development affects the environment, either negatively or positively. But should it be negative, you must know what mitigation measures do you have. If it's positive, we have to know how can it be duplicated somewhere else. So we also have a responsibility to do continuous auditing, supervision, verification, to find out that what people are doing is what they're supposed to be doing. Ideally, that's what we should be doing. But of course, we may have some limitations based on a number of other factors. We also issue compliance certificates. We do what we call compliance assistance. We have got companies which have been failing to do the right thing. Rather than closing them, we choose to work with them, give them guidance, give them support to ensure that they do the right thing. And we keep monitoring them to be sure that what they're doing is the right thing. I'll skip that. After NEMA, which is a principal agency, we have what we call lead agencies. Lead agencies are the day-to-day implementers of all those environmental aspects. And a lead agency has responsibility for a specific sector. For example, issues to do with forestry, NFA is the lead agency. Issues to do with wetlands, the Wetland Department at the Ministry of Water and Environment is responsible for that. Issues to do with wildlife, UWA is the lead agency. Issues to do with the environment in urban areas. The urban authorities are the frontline responsible agencies for that. Local governments are also considered to be frontline managers of environment and all issues around the environment in their areas of jurisdiction. So realize that because of that kind of arrangement, it is, I think ideally should have been the best arrangement, because there's nowhere where you don't have a local authority to take responsibility for a sector. But unfortunately, at times, somewhere, somehow, the lead agencies fail, for reasons which can be explained and others which may not be explained. Now, we also consider civil society organizations as key actors in ensuring that the environment and sustainability is achieved. One of the key aspects we expect is to create awareness. Government can try, but government cannot be everywhere. So we need partners, and civil society organizations have been very good partners in driving the message home about the environment. But as we talk about awareness, we have to know one thing. Awareness has got levels. There's the common tendency of awareness to know about and talk about it and do nothing. The awareness we're talking about is critical awareness, which not only talks about it, but goes ahead to do something about it. We are people, when you are critically aware, then we can say you are environmentally literate. One of the challenges we have in this country is that many of us are not literate in matters of environment. That's why somebody picks a bottle of water and throws it through the window with the vehicle and says, KCCA will do something on it. Somebody decides to divert a river because he wants to take water to his what? To his garden, and forgets the others. Those are some of the issues. Now, the private sector, where I think many of you belong. The private sector is a key partner. And as you're aware, government may not have all the resources to address issues to make sure that environment is managed sustainably. But the key beneficiaries from the resources of the environment are the private sector, because they make money from there. So they are challenged to become direct actors, participants in the process of sustaining what sustains them. If you don't do so, one day you collapse like the fisheries industry. I live somewhere where I see people carrying trucks of clay. I live somewhere near Kajansi. When we grew up, we knew there was a lot of clay in Kajansi to make tiles and bricks. Today, they no longer have any clay around. So they are driving the whole of Wakiso district looking for clay deposits. Now we keep asking, what will happen when the clay gets finished in all those places? What alternatives do they have? It's a challenge to begin thinking beyond what we see now. Anybody dealing with the natural resources should be aware that as we use them, we exhaust them. And as we exhaust them, we are running a risk of having no alternatives. So the earlier we begin to think about alternatives, the better. Now, we also expect the private sector to get approvals from NEMA for their investments. And when you are given an approval, make sure that you actually implement your project as per the approval conditions. Unfortunately, we have a very big challenge that many times when we issue these certificates, people use them as just a tool to prove that they went to NEMA, but they don't do what they're supposed to do. So you realize that you find somebody doing the wrong thing, and when you talk to him, what he does is waives a certificate. Colleagues, be very careful. And I want you to stand to be counted as brave Ugandans who can see something wrong and challenge it. When you challenge it, don't stop at stopping somebody. Ask for the documentation. You'll be surprised that whatever documentation they will show you, they can show you the face of the certificate, but they will never show you the back. The back has got all the conditions which have been put for this project to be implemented. Unfortunately, many times people default on the conditions, and that's where we get problems. NEMA does not issue any certificate which does not have conditions. The conditions are there, they are very clear, and they are tested. But unfortunately, the people who go out to do it, to implement, do the wrong thing. You may ask me, why don't you catch them? NEMA still, as an agency, has some limitations. Uganda has got 45 million citizens. To be supervised in environmental matters by NEMA, which has got 130 workers. So you can see the challenge. 130 workers, including even support staff, to oversee 45 million Ugandans. Those are some of the limitations that make NEMA appear like we're not doing what we're supposed to do. But I think with time, we are moving beyond that. Now, communities. The other partners we want to engage to make sure that we sustain the environment, we sustain our world, Earth, our planet, our communities. You see, communities live closest to the resources. But unfortunately, many times they are ignored. The assumption is that maybe they don't know, maybe they have not been to school, maybe they don't speak the language you speak, maybe they are not scientists, and we assume because they are not what we think is good for an educated, for a civilized person, we ignore them. We are saying communities cannot be left out, because if the environment goes wrong, if the environment becomes unsustainable, they will be the first people to suffer. And they will suffer more because the immediate needs are met within that kind of environment. I remember some time back I was doing some work in Kibuku and Palisa in the east. And I asked somebody was growing rice in a wetland. I asked him, how much do you get from your garden? From 50 by 100 garden. I said, well, maybe now we can get 4 bags. Say, how much were you getting earlier? Say, earlier we were getting about 7 bags. Say, what happened? That the production is going down and down. So I said, what will happen when it gets finished? They said, maybe we shall die. You know, that fatalistic attitude. Communities have to be helped to think critically, to think beyond the obvious, to think beyond what they have seen their people doing. I was also doing some research some time back, and I would ask people, why are you growing coffee now? Why are you growing maize? Say, I grew up seeing my father growing coffee. And others were moving from it, others were insisting on going into it. And then we say, what's your problem? Say, I don't have daily cash in my pocket. Why? It's because the crop I grow only gets me money 2 times a year. So as Ugandans, with our level of understanding, we need to challenge ourselves to think more critically, to help those work with be more critical, so that they can make decisions based on understanding. This is part of the awareness activities people do. Now, we have initiatives to control pollution. These ones are many. We have environmental audits to make sure that all industries are taken care of, are checked to see that they are doing the right thing. When we find errant industries, we close them or we give them compliance assistance. Among other initiatives, I've got the Campus Control Pollution Task Force Initiative, which has been on for some time and is yielding some good results. One of the challenges we have is about energy. Energy is becoming a problem. People use biomass, firewood, but the forests are getting finished. So I have to find other ways of availing ourselves with the energy sources that can be managed, or find technology that can help us to generate, to produce, to use energy more sustainably. We need to educate ourselves for sustainable development. It's a very key, important aspect, so that people realize that it's not all about learning to know, but we learn to know, we learn to do, and we learn to feel. So that we teach the 3 domains of learning: the head, the heart, and the hands, and then become more complete, more human beings. We have examples of young children trying to find solutions, sustainable solutions to energy. These are children in a school in Raga trying to make briquettes. This is biogas in Gaza High. This is biogas in a school called Ikra in Rengo. Now, I'm about to finish. What can we promise? We are saying we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. That's Albert Einstein. We need to change our thinking. We need to move from business as usual to business as unusual. And what do? 1, we need to tame our appetites for things, consume less, reduce greenhouse emissions by compositing what can be composted. Choose reusable over single use, upcycle more, that turn waste into raw material for something new. Buy local. Use fewer chemicals. We have overloaded our environment with chemicals, and in the end, we are no longer healthy as we used to be. And then we have much water, but this water should be used sustainably. We should use our purchasing power for good. What do I mean here? Let us use our money for good purposes, not for wastage. And let us conserve energy. And finally, we have to empower ourselves and the communities to take a personal and a collective responsibility, environment and social concerns in our business plans, budgets, and activities. If we don't do so, we'll keep ignoring the environmental issues. And we should always seek guidance and support from relevant agencies and departments to ensure that existing laws and regulations are adhered to. Yes, and finally, somebody said this: when the last tree is cut, when the last fish has been caught, when the last river has been poisoned, only then we shall know that money cannot be eaten. Thank you very much.
A big hand clap for Dr. Bavikwa. You know, things to do with the environment are very technical, so you have to dive into enough detail for people to understand. I remember a certain politician, I think those of you who are old enough will remember Honorable John Ken Luchamzi, the man, as he used to call himself. We're doing an interview because he's an environment activist. And he said something that I've never forgotten to this day. He said, Ben, you've grown up in a place where you are enjoying Uganda as a country. He said, but if we keep going at the rate at which we're going, your grandchildren will be asking you what is a tree. And I've never forgotten that statement. The rate at which we are destroying our environment is actually really scary, and if we don't do something about it, it doesn't go well. I think we've seen what's been going on, and Doctor has put that very well. So we've been sitting for too long. If we're going to preserve the environment, we need to preserve our health as well. I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. This is not optional. So that we can move the blood a little bit. And just to do that, I'll ask my DJ from Fenon to play me a song. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to move around the room and meet at least 3 new people that you don't know and say hi, introduce yourself, find out what they do, exchange business cards. And no, all of you shouldn't be going to Gerard at the same time, okay? So do take a minute and a half to move around. Please don't leave the room that you don't know. Introduce yourself, get to know who they are and what they do. And then we'll get on with our last presentation this morning. We'll take some questions and then we'll wrap up with lunch together. So the conversations you've started can be continued over lunch, which will be coming up after our last presentation. So I'll ask us to take our seats. Oh, and I think I forgot to put a disclaimer. The introductions were supposed to be for business purposes. It seems I might have been a bit too late in putting that disclaimer out, so yeah. But please do take your seats. Let's continue with our last presentation as we learn a little bit about how to keep up with the global trends, especially in IT. I see some people are still disregarding my instructions and continuing with conversations. They are not adapting to our trends today. Okay, so just as we get ready for our last presentation today, just wanted to remind us that we do have some feedback forms. We'd like to hear from you. And so we have remained slightly aware of people who have not yet adapted to the trends and are not yet paperless. So there might be some forms on your table for you to fill. But we also have a QR code, which I would like us to put on the screen if we can. And what you can be able to do is simply scan the QR code, and then that will enable you to be able to fill in the feedback form and tell us what you think and any thoughts that you might have. So that's the QR code on the screen. Actually, I should ask, if you don't mind me engaging you ladies and gentlemen, how many people in this room have ever used the QR code? I just want to show Gabriel how far we have to go in terms of adapting to global trends. If you have used the QR code before, please put your hand straight up. I'm counting less than 30% of the room. Okay, so this is why we are having this discussion. There's work to do. So just to give you some basic education, the world has moved on very swiftly now. A lot of the things that you do can be done on the phone, so things like feedback forms. So when you go to your phone and simply search for a QR code scanner, you point it at the screen, it will pop up with a form that you can then fill in on your smartphone. It's as simple and straightforward as that. I don't want to hear anyone saying that you are too old for this, because this is where the world is going. So if Milton can use the QR code, surely all of us can, right? Yeah, see, yeah, he has allowed, so no excuses. Let's hear from some of our IT experts who have been able to benefit from adapting to global trends, especially in the IT space, and why it's very important for you to be able to pick up with them. And to do that, I'm going to invite the Director of Technical Services at CIBIL to come and give you some insights on how CIBIL has been able to adapt to the global trends. And I'm going to ask Mr. Arizera, Adrian, who is coming now to share some insights on what CIBIL has been able to learn from the IT space, and then we'll take some questions and have a quick discussion before we wrap up. Thank you. Please give a big hand clap as he comes.
Thanks. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In Uganda, we refused the others, so we are just still two. I'm here to represent CIBIL. I'm Adrian Arizela, as they have said, and I'm the Director of Technical Services at CIBIL. And yes, my profile has been shown somewhere before, but I've been in CIBIL for at least around 20 years now, and working in different capacities. Now, our topic today is basically how has CIBIL adapted to the trends that have in IT in particular. I used to teach IT some time back before I joined CIBIL, and we used to have, starting from typewriters, machine language, then IBM machines and all that, how the IT was transforming. Suddenly, I also was lucky that my father was a teacher, so we had the cycle styling machine at home where we would print examination time, they would bring it at home and would be the labor force to do the examination for the school. So what meant is that we had there was a lot of labor. The stencil, so I know how to do some typing on the machine, then do stenciling and all that. But interestingly, all that has changed. It has changed to the fact that we are currently using our phones. So how are we transforming ourselves? Now, to give a brief history of CIBIL, CIBIL is a local Ugandan IT company, and we started in 1991. I'd requested maybe to put my speech up, but I don't know. And it has expanded throughout East Africa. We have presence in Kenya, we have presence in Ethiopia, we are in Dubai, in Tanzania as well, and also in Rwanda. And we are also proud to say that its head office for all those regional offices are all based in Uganda. So it's the only company which I can say which has grown from Uganda and exported its labor force to East Africa. And without doubt, we have some Ugandans working in Rwanda. Myself, I was in Malawi for a good number of months, and also we have some guys in Kenya from Uganda. So we have really exported as we need. Now, the total workforce, which I can say we are around total as a group, we are around 500 employees, but in Uganda, we are around 200 staff. And of all those, 90% are all technical IT staff. Now, on the other portfolio, we rank for the last 3 years, we have ranked among the top 90 companies in Uganda in terms of tax collection or as a part of top taxpayers, consecutive years. So that shows how we fuel back to the economy and how also companies trust us to give us business. Otherwise, this money is what NSF gives us or companies give us that we give back to URA. And so we believe in growing the country and also growing the economy of Uganda. Now, as a solution provider, we don't do this alone. We don't have a factory where we manufacture IT. We partner with companies. We partner with all the IBM companies over. We are partnered with IBM, we are partnered with Dell, we are partnered with HP, Oracle, VMware, Cisco, and all the like of the companies we have. And we also not only partner as resellers, but in service provision. So to say that we are the only titanium partner company of Dell in East Africa, the other one being in Ethiopia. We are the only global HP Gold partner company in Uganda, and we're also an advanced Oracle partner in Uganda. So when these US companies, now these are all American companies, sorry to say, they trust us with their technology, they know that we are not going to modify or maneuver with it or hard code it. One of the speakers said, rethinking about the challenges, what will happen in the future. In the last COVID time, we are having another different form of Cold War, the chip issues. If you ordered a laptop in 2020, 2021 especially, you would have noticed, if you had gone to order any computer of a laptop, there was a shortage of processors. And this was started by our President Trump. He said, I don't want to sell chips to China. So China was stuck, it cannot supply any processors. All this hardware is made from China. So that's one of the Cold War we are having. You know what happened to Huawei phones? They can't have Android on them. That's part of the thing. So these things affect us down here. So how we think otherwise, but we are still in the board. These are leaders, they have made patents, we don't have patents, they have made patents, the patents are owned by them. So we have to adapt to what moves ahead. Now, in the adaptation, basically we have to think, what do we supply next? Do we move, somebody comes with a Dell laptop, Dell is American, it has to stick to the American policies. Then I'll come and tell you, maybe if you don't mind, there is this type of laptop, it would also work. It may be made in Taiwan, but can also work. That's an adoption. You shouldn't be stuck. Now, as CP, we are not in this technology for long, but we started as a laptop company, desktop, in 1991. We are selling, we call it box moving, selling laptops and desktop, that's all. But today, we are saying we are a solution provider. Actually, if you came to office to buy a laptop now, if you come, would tell you we have to order, to take 4 weeks. I mean, you don't even see it. I don't know if there's even a laptop in stores for you to buy. Because we have moved away from box pushing to solution providing. So we want to design systems for you, want to create, work together and have something that we can work, innovate together. Now, we have customers who have trusted us. And I want to say one of them is NSSF. And it's an applause from us to NSSF that they have trusted us with their business for the last 18 years or so. We have worked together in different capacities and have provided them composable infrastructure, which are cloud ready. As I can speak, I can confidently say, if NSF wants to run in a cloud, they are almost in the next world. They can do a cloud environment on their systems because they have a cloud infrastructure. We have provided them with a robotic automation system. They have a chatbot. When you go on the NSSF website, it asks you questions. Do you do this next? Go this next. There's no human being you are talking with. Actually, it brings the face of a lady. I think there's a name also it tags to it. But it's not a human being. That's a machine. It's machine learning. It can tell you what you want to do and direct you to the next phase. So as CIBIL, we are behind that. And we think that's the way to go. It needs to be taken a step further. Even to talk, because some people may not understand IT, but they may not understand the reading very well, but they can hear. So if you can communicate with a machine and talk and tell it, I want to do this, I want to go and access my midterm, it tells you now enter your NSSF number, you read it out. Then you read and it takes it, then you know that the NSF, at least for NSF, we are already we're on the notch. I want to testify on myself. I did recently apply for my midterm because I'm also in age, almost retired. I wanted to test and see if it works. With these things, you keep saying you test. So I went to the lady, customer care, very good. I called my friends in NSF. They said, no, you just go to customer care. Come very early. I went in, the lady, there's a machine there, clicked in. It gave me a code, picked it out. It called me, like the airport things. Next table, I went. Simple as that. Applied, waited, got a phone message the next time. Yeah, your things are approved. No hassle. They have never called me to find out if I got the money. That's the other problem to follow up. But at least there was those people say that you can't get the money. I'm testifying that you can get your money. No hassle. Just one visit. Everything was verified. I was okay. So it's an applause to NSF that the systems are working as they are supposed to be. We have also delivered solutions to URA. That's for the past 20 years. In terms of data center, we did the data warehousing, which they do to validate who is paying taxes, how many taxes we are collecting. It was built by us. And currently, we are finishing their Tier 3 data center for their production site. Then we also built the NITA Cloud, the first cloud infrastructure in sub-Saharan Africa. It's a Tier 3 ready data center. By Tier 3, I usually want to clarify this because somebody usually asks me, okay, we see Tier 3, Tier 4, what are these words? Now, technically, since we have procurement guys here, somebody will come for it. Tier 3 means that I have redundancy in power. Actually, it has nothing to do with the structure. It's all about power. Now, we believe a data center is all based upon power. If power goes off, you have nothing. AC will not work. Your UPS will run out and shut down. So your uptime, you mention, whether systems you have, they are all useless. So as a Tier 3, we know we have 2 generators, we have how many generators and all that. So if you go in Tier 4, you multiply times that by 2. So it means you have 4 generators to run, maybe even if there are 4 servers, just 4 servers. And they should never go down. So that's the build of that is that, but the main thing is power redundancy. That's what we mean by tier. So we have done a tier data center in NITA, and which is what the cloud infrastructure for most of the government MDAs are running on currently. And that was built by CIBIL. It has all automation in, fire detection, door openings, and the rest. Then the other thing is the UG Hub. We have seen it usually most of the time advertising UG Hub. It's a media for integration. It's built on next generation technology. In other words, I'm saying open source architecture completely. All the teams who have built it, which I want to also say later, are all Ugandans who have developed it from here. We got students from Makerere, fresh graduates. We put them into training, and they came and developed. We tell them, okay, we want to develop this, and they came and developed UG Hub for us. So it's an enterprise bus system, which has been built locally from Uganda. Now, the other thing also, I'm just picking few customers, is MOFPED. We have supported Ministry of Finance for the IFMIS project and the IFMIS infrastructure countrywide, from data center to the end. Now, with that, which I will also mention later, is that there were challenges. They have branches all up country. And the links, first of all, they were using UTL. UTL went in a slow mode. Then we had MTN. When it rains in April, we have an issue. Lightning strikes all the APs, so government people cannot reconcile. There are many things which come environmental, we cannot protect them. So we had to think in agile. So in some of the sites, we had to put satellite links. Then it came about power. Umeme went for Yaka. So local government says, we don't have Yaka every time. It's not cash. We are used to metering. So sites are off completely. So then we had to think otherwise. That's the adoption. We had to think, we decided, let's go for solar. But then you can't run solar for a whole day. You have to also reduce on the hardware footprint. You need a server there. You need an AC. So what do? Why do you need an AC? Because the server is so big, it's generating out of heat. So you need an AC. So we reduced, you said now, instead of having a server, we do for mini servers. So supply a router with an OS inside, which runs as a server. So it's a router, it can go in a box, you don't even need a rack. Then reduce on the current power wastage and have power coming in, which is optimal, and it's clean, safe, and runs the whole day. No more paying Yaka. We have done that for most, like 15 sites now we have, which are currently on solar completely. Cost effective, not cheap as per se, but cost effective in the overall, in the running. Now, how do we try to do this? Simple, we are Ugandan, we are hiring Ugandan people. One of the most things we have found out is to invest in human capital. Get staff, get them a good working environment, comply, pay with their NSSF. Don't, because every month they are IT people, they will go on the website and check if their returns are going in. So make sure that, but most importantly, train them. So as CBIL, we have tried to certify as much as we can. Every year, we spent around $30,000 US on certification and training for the team. And this is it's important because we want to maintain our partnership levels with the manufacturers. This is done every year, in and out. We review almost every quarter, and if you don't comply, you are not there. Maybe just go back to the certification page, if it's not there. So we are partners with around 71 manufacturers. We have 430 certifications, and which have been taken up, and all those on that pie chart, those are the number of certifications by number, by the staff we have in. And we keep adding on. Now, this is not held today. You don't certify today and say, I'm certified. After 2 years, technology changes. The vendor says you have to redo the certification. It has even gone beyond that. They want to confirm that you are not just using them for business case. You have to badge yourself. So if you have seen in LinkedIn, there are things called badging. So it means every 6 months, you have to attend some course inside there. And you show that you are still interested in their technology. Now that's what we do, especially to maintain the staff. And also, as part of our DNA, we encourage the team to work together. And we also priority as primary, recruit from the university. Now, don't say if we are already certified, yes, we can take you, but our priority is first recruit freshers, as opposed to where we say we want so many certifications, because we know this technology, the technologies we are selling, are not taught in the university. So we don't expect you to come knowing Cisco routing, because you cannot buy a router to test at home. The university doesn't have it. So we are obliged to train you to know how to do routing. We are obliged to train you to know how to do Oracle. So that's our DNA. We pick fresh graduates, train them, and make them what they are supposed to be. The other thing is on internship. Now, we take in as many as we can. We give them lunch. Those who have come to internship at our place, we give them lunch. Though our time is usually 1 month. I want to say this because we want to give opportunity to many students. So we try to say, come, do your intern in 1 month, make sure you are certified, but it becomes rigorous, then we get in others. So we try to get as many interns as we come in the few slots that will be there. we don't shun away interns. So, and also this keeps us flowing, because when those students go and they finish, they apply. If they have been good, we pick them up immediately in the field. Now, next, how we do it, we try to strive for innovation. We don't stick on one technology. We try to make sure that we can innovate as much as we can. We had a customer who said, now, you know what, I want to do my data center, my infrastructure, but I want to see if I can make a cloud, my infrastructure ready for cloud. That was NSSF. We said, but your organization doesn't have capabilities of a cloud. You are only one. We said, no, next time we want to do microservices. I want procurement guys to be able to run their own servers. If they want to shut them down, let them shut them down, but they are their own. Maybe human resource can file up their machines, develop, and kill them. That's their own. So they do micro-server segmentation. So we had to develop something that can make the organization ready. So we sat them down and said, okay, we can give you a composable infrastructure, mixed blade with VMware and all this, and have your system ready for cloud. And that's what we supplied. That's trying to make sure that if their system is now, today, and next they get a vendor who said, I want only one microservices completely. Do you throw away your servers? No, they are already ready to go to the next phase of environment. As I had mentioned before, we had issues with power in upcountry sites. We had to fix it by supplying cost-effective solar modules. These solars are monitored from Kampala here. The person can know if it's charging or somebody has switched it off, all those things. They have a DSM module, they have charges, they can get to know. So a site cannot say that, by the way, our panel was stolen when they are seeing that the thing is charging. So if they have smart, they have to go and cut the wires and all those things. That's the thing. Also, UG Hub, I had mentioned about it. The next thing was on cash recycling machines. Most of us may have interface with them in some of the banks. But when we went out to the market, we found there was an issue of how ATMs are managed. Now, usually an ATM, the bank goes, hires a bullion van, applies for security, they go pick the money and load. That money which they have been deposited, they take it out, and then also come in with more money load. So there is a risk of loading, unloading, and all that, which is a hefty thing. So, but banks, we are looking at an option. Can't we use that money which is in the ATM? Now we have cash deposits, we can deposit extra cash. Why can't we use that money? We no longer put in envelopes. Why can't we use that money? So we said, okay, let's do cash recycling. So what it does, you deposit money in the same cassette. If you followed me, you would pick that same money if you are withdrawing. So in turn, if a machine deposits maybe 10 million and it's getting withdrawals of around 5 million, there may be no person coming in to pick that money. So there is money, the cost of running the ATM is reduced. The cost of security-wise, in terms of security, is also reduced. What happens? Most of the vendors, OEM partners we are working with, we are not taking our notes. Our notes are dirty. They are from a charcoal dealer. So they have charcoal, matoke in the market. So sometimes we write our names, or I remember when I was a child, my father would do. If he gives you 10,000 notes, he pins them, staples, so that you don't lose them as you take them out. There is a stapling machine, so you have to remove the staple. Now, some of them still have the staples, or they are torn. So we had a challenge on getting who is the right person. So we had to go to do a lot. We went to Diebold, it was not working. NCR is not working. So then we had to hit one vendor who was Hitachi, and because he had tested it in India and it's running very well, we had to go with that. So we have provided CRM machines to Postbank. If you have seen in Postbank, you can withdraw, you can deposit cash directly. Those are one of them. The Centenary Bank, it's also running that whole plant of that. DFC is also running. Currently, we are doing a POC for KCB because it's not anywhere in Africa. Only in South Africa, that's where they have CRMs. So we are going to Nigeria, partnering with some company there to supply them the same CRM machines. Kenya, they are also going to buy from KCB. We have gone to Ethiopia, Romo Bank, we have also supplied them. So we are bringing a change in the ATM industry in Africa. That's a change. Now, we had done this caching system long time. I remember in 2004, we had started some ATM business. Then we dropped it. We had out of proud. It was more of just put a box and get away. So, but it was not evolving. But later on, we saw, okay, we can go into another mode, not in the current mode where people are running through. The other next thing, which I had not mentioned here, is AI on security. We partnered with a company called Darktrace. If you Google it, we don't hide information. I usually tell people who hide witch doctors or herbalists. I usually find them near my place at home. When they are picking grass, only one grass, they pick like this and run. But they want only one type of grass or one leaf. But for you not to understand what they are picking, they pick everything. So they don't want to share. Even if you are the one who wants the medicine, they go and crush and give you the crushed version of it. So there is a company, Darktrace. We partnered with them. And these guys do machine learning of the network. Put it in the network, connect to your IP, everything. Whoever is sending, it learns for one day, in the whole night it will be picking the patterns, how people are behaving. Who is doing what? How does it do? How is the database behaving? Does it connect outside? No, it doesn't connect. It does machine learning over time. Now, the next time an attack happens or an issue happens, it sends you a flag. By the way, the other night, this amount of data was sent to California. Or there was an FTP session which happened the other night. Are you sure or not? Now, at that time, it blocks the service. It's not a firewall. People who are in IT understand. It's not a firewall, but it blocks the service. So what entails is, at that time, you cannot do. So if it's okay, you can okay it. It will learn it, that's the pattern. But the next time this pattern changes, now it goes to Russia. It says now there's a problem. This thing went to Russia again. It blocks. Now that's what we are doing with the AI. In artificial intelligence, somebody says we are replacing human beings. We are not replacing human beings, but somehow we are trying, the human beings have changed. Their attention span has changed. The moderator was trying to say, I didn't come with a book, with a presentation as an IT person, I should have come on a soft. I told them, no. We need to, I think, go back to the realistics. We need to have books to read. I saw YouTube has changed because our attention span has changed. Now YouTube has also made short clips. So they are short clips of 2 minutes because they know people cannot watch movies for 30 minutes. Those things have also gone. Our attention has changed. So they are adapting to our change of TikTok because TikTok was short clips. YouTube has also come with short clips. That's where we are going. So we need to go into that. Now machine learning makes life simple. Not that it's replacing human beings. We still have human beings behind to automate, make the processes work better. Basically, you can't do an artificial intelligence system when you don't have right procedures. If things are haphazard, forget about AI. You have to have processes which are straightforward. You have to workflows which are in place. Then the next thing is as Sibyl, we also offer cloud services. Cloud service in nature, we have customers who cannot afford to buy a server, who cannot afford to buy this network infrastructure. So what we provide space for them locally in Uganda here. We are doing it in Uganda, we are doing it in Kenya. And the cloud services, some of them are backup as a service. We also do software as a service, infrastructure as a service. All that are tailored to the customers to grow. We have had fintechs who are operating with us, who are running their systems from us. They don't have a server. If he says, I'm not running on your system, he comes with his USB, he takes his data and takes it away. And that's it. His obligation is only a contract where he's running, the way people do in Amazon. So we are running that in Uganda because by law, some data has to stay in the country. But then these people cannot set up a server room, so we give them cloud services. And so we have SaaS models for SACCOs, we have SaaS models for education systems, we have software which we hire on tendency to education systems. So how do we, then the other last thing is mobile banking. We have known that telcos have been running this show for long. But as CIBIL, we are saying, let's change this. Why can't banks do it? Why can't NSSF of the likes, people, financial institutions who have the money do it? So already we have a bank which is running. I saw yesterday actually a paper. They have already been approved, granted license to operate as a financial institution to do banking services. And they are going to do mobile banking, independent of the telcos. What will help them to do is, you don't need an account there. You can go and bank with them using your phone. It will be on their system. And based on that, if you want to be an account holder, they can move you in. But it's an independent bank of sort, completely mobile in its center. So now we are trying to say, so we have sold it to the banks. Some banks have adopted, and we are going to see that in trend. So that's a trend, because if you say 145 trillion on mobile banking, that's the money which should have gone in the bank. That's a transaction which should have gone in the bank. But because the bank stayed in a traditional mode, they were not very swift to move. We think that we need to move ahead of this. Then one last thing we do is we engage customers. That's the only way we can stay afloat. Our business relies on customers. If we don't have customer interface, we are completely out. So we are usually on the doors of customers like NSSF. We are every time engaging. Now that procurement has said they have some money for us, just trust us. We are going to swam you for anything, anything. Because that's our model. We want to get your problems. If there are problems, or we try to identify for you problems and try to get solutions as most as possible. That's our thing. So with that keeps us in engagement. And as mentioned, the reason we certify one of them is to make sure that our partnership with the OEMs is intact. And we also trusted that what we are doing is in line with what they want. Minus that, we can't have partners. And if I don't have partners, I can't sell to you. So that's one of the things why we have to keep the engagement with the customers in place. Then the other thing is local support. As I mentioned, we have around 200 staff locally in Uganda. So we are not a small company, to say. And all that, almost 90% are technical. All that are meant to provide support end-to-end, from a laptop to power to structural building, cabling, all that. We have been involved in civil works of late, so we are also doing some of the data centers building. As I mentioned, I said we had URA, which we are doing. We did NITA, and we had to do more sites. But all that is because we have local staff, and these local staff are trained locally in Uganda. They are students of Makerere, they are students of Gulu University, all the universities within, not from any place. And also, then after that, we certify them, give them the technology, and basically tell them what do's and don'ts of those vendors, and then they are able to comply. Now, what we would request is that from the team or the customers is basically you allocate more budget to IT as and when, every year at least, so that things can move. Because we had an issue in 2021, it didn't affect NSF, but as basically the economy shrunk down a bit or went into slow mode, the other guys increased their things because now also the economy was slow, so the cost of equipment also was rising. And that gives us into a conflict because whereas the customer wants some equipment, X and Y cannot get it. So that gives us into a conflict, so we request that, yeah, as you think about it, think about the budget 90, then we can also keep it in business as your providers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adizera. Based on your name and your look, I had initially thought that you might be from somewhere like Eritrea, but then I just noticed the energy you have, and this one must be a Muchiga. So if you can just confirm where you come from. Are you Eritrea? Are you Ugandan?
I'm Ugandan.
From where?
I studied in Chigezi High School.
Ah, okay.
And
There I see you. I was from private. So you grew up on the video all the way from the beginning to the end. The energy is a bit obvious. A big thank you to Mr. Arizera from Sibyl. Now look, a lot of the stuff that he's been sharing might sound a bit technical, but it's important for us to understand why technology is important for you as your business, and we'll do a Q&A. If you have any questions on how Sibyl, for example, can help support your business in terms of adopting IT, we'll be able to do that. I remember, so I studied computer science at the university back in the late 90s, and interestingly, even as someone who studied computer science, it wasn't until I think maybe a year ago that I allowed to be able to put money in an ATM as a deposit. Because I always used to think, and I have a feeling I'm not the only one in this room, that what if I put the money in there and it falls somewhere and doesn't get into my account? That was always my thinking. As a typical villager, I'm thinking, so if I put this money and it doesn't go, am I sure it's actually in my account? So it shows you just how much we have to be able to adapt with IT and how it's growing over the years. So we'll do some Q&As. We have some, if you have any questions, you have some papers in front of you, you can be able to write them down and send them through. If you want to ask a question yourself, we'll give you a chance to do that very briefly before we do lunch. But just before we do that, I'm going to invite someone to tell us a bit about voluntary savings. I know that many of us here are maybe self-employed, and you want to be able to learn how you can be able to do voluntary savings with NSSF. And Humphrey Ogwang, who is a relationship manager with voluntary savings, will be coming in a bit. But before he comes, I want to invite Angela Nandaula, who is the head of business and institutional banking with Housing Finance Bank, to come and tell you about how you can be able to get money from her to be able to fulfill your obligations when NSSF gives you a big contract. How can she help you be able to finance this contract? So please welcome Angela as she comes to briefly share a solution or two with you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, NSSF, for this opportunity to speak to the Supplier Finance Bank. We are an indigenous bank, and I'm not sure if is a presentation going up. Why we are here is really to tell you that we are also part of NSSF, and we appreciate that we are on this journey together. Just a brief about Housing Finance Bank, we are 50% owned by NSSF. So just in case you don't know who we are. And the other majority shareholder is Government of Uganda through Ministry of Finance. And then we have, because of our legacy, we have 0.8% from National Housing because of our heritage, because we started off as a mortgage company. So just so that you demystify who we are. So how we are spread out, we have 17 plus now Hoima, 18 branches, over 400 bank agents, 24/7 banking services, and then over 600 ATMs and MasterCard connected ATMs transactions. So that is, can we move? I was given only 5 minutes, so I'm rushing through the presentation. We are spread across the regions in Uganda, and we are represented in the north, Arua, Gululira, then in the west we have Hoima, Fort Potombara, then many of our branches are in the central, then in the east we have Mbale, Tororo, and then we have, I think most of the, like I've said, most of them are centrally. But regardless, we serve the whole country through one, technology, because that is the way to go. You'll not find many banks opening brick and mortar branches anymore, because we've embraced technology to be able to bring services close to their people. And we do everything. I think previously we were thought to be doing only mortgage financing, but because we are a local bank, we have evolved and we now do all services of a fully fledged commercial bank. So we have both business and personal banking services, and there's a lot of detail in there, but I have a team that I'm with that we can go into detail after this presentation so that we save some time. But for you, the suppliers, just for the suppliers, I think what we can say is we offer financial services. So you shouldn't ever feel stuck when you're trying to access financing. And we have trade finance services, we have vehicle and asset financing, we have different financing services. We also have investment services, and then there are other services that add value, like bank assurance, like custodial payments, all kinds of payments. So we are fully fledged, and we would like you to feel comfortable. Why? Because we are indigenous, and all our decisions are made internally. So for trade finance, because this is a suppliers forum, we have all those instruments available for you to come and consume. And they're easy because for the bids, they're even unsecured. Then we go ahead to provide guarantees, contract financing services, invoice discounting, and LPOs. So if you're a supplier and you feel stranded, or you would like a flexible banking partner to work with, you're welcome to come and work with us. So I think I've spoken through that. We can move to the next slide. We have, I said these are available up to 500 million unsecured, and they're available in 2 hours. We know that time is of essence to you, so we try as much as possible to make sure that you go and do your work and you don't spend time in the bank. Then in terms of the requirements, those are requirements, and being NSSF suppliers, all we need is the confirmations that you're actually getting the work. So the formats, the financial cards, well, of course we have to do KYC on you, and then a bank account. Otherwise, the rest are generic things that you would need to access any contract financing or any trade finance services. So that's our pricing, and you can see it is very friendly, and we are competitive. So my call on you is that come and we will work together and give you financing. But besides the financing and the different services that we are offering in terms of invoice discounting and all the other trade finance products that we talked about, I just want you to know that as Housing Finance Bank, because the theme today is around sustainability, we are also embarked on a sustainable certification journey last year, and we are completing it at the end of this year. So while we are working with you, we also encourage you to get into this theme, because when you come to apply for the financing with us, we are going to assess you for ESG, environmental risks. We are going to assess you for governance risks. We are going to assess you for social risks. So if, for example, you are dealing in charcoal or dealing in, if you're building a house, we would like to know how your structures are aligned to the ESG agenda. So this is something that is real, and it is something that I request that whoever wants to work with us embarks on, because we are not leaving no stone unturned, and we'll make sure that all of you move on to the sustainability agenda. So I'd like to thank you very much. I was given only 5 minutes, that's why I've been rushing through. But you are welcome to ask questions, and we'll be around until the end of the forum. I'd like to thank you very much, NSSF, for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. Please give her another big hand clap. As she mentioned, there's a desk on the outside. As you go out, you'll be able to get any information. I noticed that some of us were trying to take screenshots of the requirements and everything. You don't need to do that. It's available as soon as you step outside. You'll be able to get all the information that you need. And Angela and her team are on hand to provide you with all the information that, that you require. I actually wanted to find out, Angela, I was told that if I am less than a year away from my midterm, I can come and talk to you and you can, we can do a deal. Okay, I'm coming. You have my lunch date then because of that. Let's hear now a little bit about voluntary savings. I'm going to ask Humphrey to come very briefly and talk about what you can do if you want to be a voluntary saver with NSSF. And then as soon as he's done, in just a minute and a half or so, we'll take any questions that you might have for our presenters today. And then we'll end and go have lunch together. So Humphrey, please come tell us a little bit about voluntary savings. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How is everyone? Good. Thank you very much for having us here as a voluntary section to our sister department, procurement department. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you. So, my name is Humphrey Ogwang. I work with the NSSF as a relationship manager in the voluntary section. What is this voluntary section of voluntary savings? Last year there was an amendment that allowed NSSF to retail NSSF savings. You see, before that, if you are not on a payroll, then it was impossible for you to save with NSSF. Many were left out. Besides those who are not on a payroll, even the ones who are on a payroll but do not have access to topping up to their savings were not able to top up. And so that means that 5% that was deducted was the only payment. So many missed the mark. Many were not able to meet their target, their retirement savings target. So the amendments last year has made it possible for all of us to plan for retirement and to be able to meet that target as well through voluntary savings. So voluntary savings is an option for anyone to make a saving on voluntary basis. Any amount of money, any frequency, and so that each and every Ugandan can retire with dignity. How are we doing this? We are using platforms as these to call out to each and every Ugandan to save for retirement. We are also using our financial literacy section that is rolling out financial literacy training to all Ugandans. So if there's anyone in this room here that would want to benefit from this training, can reach out to us and invite us so that we can train them on financial literacy. But also that, we have our app, NSSF app, which is which you can download using Play Store, download the NSSF app, and then you can roll on and begin to start saving with dignity. So we've not been given sufficient time to discuss, and that's why we don't have a presentation, but our table is out there. And so if you have any queries, I know some people have our forms there, please feel free to visit our table and then we can discuss at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Humphrey. And as he said, there's a table right on the outside that you can be able to go and get some more information on what to do with voluntary savings. So we're going to do a quick Q&A. I'll sit up here. I'll ask Gerald to join me and the rest of our presenters. Adrian to please come, Dr. Daniel as well, to join me up here to take any questions that you might have. I'll ask for someone to help move the microphone around for us, just in case you have any questions that you want to ask. I'm also going to ask us to be joined by Nalongo Baloka Mariam, who is a Senior Officer for Procurement and Capacity Building at PPDA. And as you can imagine, I'm sure all of us are trying to find a way of hacking into government services because of they are the biggest spender, and so you want that to be critical. So please give them a round of applause as they join me one more time. And we'll take, oh, and of course, Milton Owo, who's our Chief People and Culture Officer at NSSF, as well, to join me on the panel to represent our acting managing director, who is not around at the moment. So any questions that you might have, we'll receive those. If you want to know anything whatsoever, we are more than glad to receive it. So I'll start by asking, I guess, Milton, there seems to be an insistence that you join us. No. You come and sit. Me, I can handle. I'll use my podium. This is supposed to be my place. I'd even cheated. So I'll start with you. Head of procurement for NSSF. I guess these are our suppliers, and so one of the biggest questions would be in terms of the discussion we had earlier, where you pointed out that more than 95% of the value coming from the fund to suppliers is going to foreign companies, even though they only represent 5% of the companies that you're giving business to. What are you as a fund, as a company, as a business doing to help our local suppliers and small and medium enterprises to sort of reduce that gap? So I'll start with you to shed some light on that, maybe.
Thank you, Ben. First of all, the fact that we organize this supplier forum every year is a proof that we are committed to working with you and developing the capacity, your capacity to deliver better, because we always give you the tips of what you think you should do to improve yourself. But secondly, we are looking for data, and whoever has some of this data, please quickly assist us. We want to create a reservation scheme for the youth, the younger men and women of this country, and women who have farms, who have companies, and look at what they're able to do, and they create a reservation scheme for them that no any other competitor, no any other firm should be able to participate. When it's like, say, if you say anything below 50 million, it should be reserved for the youth and women and the disabled. Our challenge is that we are failing to get good data. We've gone to Equal Opportunity Authority, they don't have good data. But just in case you're around, and you're a lady, and you're a younger man, and you have a firm that is well established, please, let's develop this database together. We want to create a reservation scheme for you as a deliberate effort to support our local firms. In recent days, we are giving out a huge project to our local firms in construction. Was actually 100, we are almost going to award it within this week. As a deliberate effort to ensure that our local firms can meaningfully participate into the business that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I come to Milton again, so you're hearing about us trying to get young people involved in what we do and our suppliers. As a person who is responsible for finding talent, I'm sure you'll be able to understand the challenges of our workforce and how, I don't want to be so harsh, but I've had the misfortune of leading interview panels where you're interviewing people and they all have master's degrees and they claim to have first class. That's what it says on the paper. They can barely write their names on a piece of paper. They cannot speak proper English. They can't express themselves very well. What do we do about building a human resource capital if these guys are going to employ Ugandans to help? You know this challenge better than I do because of the bulk of pressure that you have to deal with. But as you ruminate on a reasonable response to that, I'll come to our director from NEMA, because from what you've been saying about enforcement for environment and all of that, there seems to be a challenge. And I've got a question here from someone who's saying that your EIAs are proving to be a bit of a challenge for businesses, the impact audits. because they seem to be very expensive. Companies are requested to pay up to 50 million shillings just to go through an audit. And someone is saying that it's not only draining, it makes it difficult to comply. So most companies just simply end up dodging the whole process in the long run and cutting corners. Isn't there a cost-effective way to be able to achieve the audits that doesn't literally force us to try and short-circuit your system and do things, you know, underhand?
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Well, the EIA practitioners are private business people. It depends on your capacity to negotiate your price. And also, I think they have a percentage based on what the project is supposed to cost when they're charging you. So it's not, NEMA may not have much influence on how much they charge you. It's a business people, it's free market, they negotiate their way, learn how to negotiate.
Based on how important this is, it's not something that we can just leave to everybody. Isn't there a way the government could maybe say, let's find a way of being able to do this on behalf of people as a government department, maybe create an audit department at NEMA that would become a revenue stream for the government, but at a much cheaper cost than people who are taking advantage of the suppliers that you see here?
That one will not be possible because NEMA is the judge. We review and make a decision on what has been done. So if we are the ones to do the EIA again and then decide whether it passes or not, it will not be ethically correct.
Right. Thank you very much. Milton, that very soft question, what do we do to improve the capacity of our workforce? Because if we're talking about not only increasing our savings as a country, that means that we need to get a bit, more people employed. But at the moment, maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me. You can start from there and say, Ben, what you're saying is absolute rubbish. Our workforce is very competent, and you don't know what you're talking about.
Who am I to say what you're saying is rubbish, Ben? You're doing perfect. No, the frustration you speak about is what we hear from a lot of employers around the country. You talk to people who are very well educated on paper, but when it gets to practicals, the gap between the education level and the practical is so wide. So a lot of employers get very frustrated about this. So what do we do about it? Number one, universities churn out talent that have something it's not about readiness for the job, but having the agility to learn. So what we advise employers when we discuss this subject matter usually is, when you go to interview people for jobs, yes, aim to look for two things. Number one, look for the fit. How ready is this person and how well do they fit with the job that you want to fill? But secondly, which is even more important for me, is looking at their attitude and learning agility. It's going to be almost impossible for you to recruit people who are 100% ready to run with the job. They must have the fit and they must have the agility to learn. And if you remember when Patrick was speaking earlier today, the days of looking at your staff as cost centers are long gone. You're looking at your staff as your investment. So employers who don't invest in training their employees, in equipping them with the practical skills that they need to create value for them, those employers are making a loss because you're paying people and getting less value than what you're paying for. And by the way, training people doesn't always involve huge money. In HR language, we say 80% of training is done on the job. 80% of it is done on the job. The other 10 to 15% is done on projects work and all that, and only 5% you take people to a classroom somewhere. So we as employers, or you people as employers, or running your own businesses, I think one advice I would give you is to sharpen your minds in terms of how you can deliver on-the-job training for your people. Feel comfortable with the fact that you're not going to recruit somebody who is 100% ready to come and deliver on the job on day one. That's the reality. Don't get too upset that you didn't get somebody who is 100%. Just look at, does this person fit with the job that we are looking at? Does this person demonstrate a learning agility? Learning agility meaning people have a hunger to learn, you know, people having a hunger to learn new skills, people having to learn how things are done, and be prepared to invest a bit of time, not necessarily money. Because the world changes. You people have seen here lots of slides. The skills you need to succeed today are not the skills you need to succeed tomorrow. So unless your people are willing to have that agility to learn on the go, then you're going to be running uphill.
Yeah.
So I think that's the summary of what I would say.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Gerald, is there a place where you might have to start looking at some of your suppliers and the composition of the people who they have on staff? Because you say you're looking for data and you're saying we want to be able to support a lot of young people and women. Do we see a place where the fund is looking at its suppliers and saying, I need to know of your workforce, what percentage is youth, what percentage is women? Because we see that happening for a lot of companies around the globe. Is that a trend that you see happening anytime soon here in Uganda?
Well, it's a good effort. I'll appreciate it. But depends on the company policy. Whereas we encourage that the youth and the women are employed, we don't have outright right to go and nose into their company policies and say, please amend in our favor. That's the reality. So we can only do the advocacy that we think we should do this, right? What is in my mandate is when I'm issuing out the requirements, I may specify. That's my mandate. I can do that and say, at least in terms of the team that you provide for me, make sure that you have 2 women, or at least a youth is represented. That is my mandate. And if it is good for you, I can adopt it, and from tomorrow, I use it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense.
Can I just add to Gerard?
Yes, of course.
It's important that the employers themselves understand the hugely added value of having diversity in your team. The more you have your team diverse, having youth, having women, having people from different backgrounds, the more you bring richness in the conversations that take place in your boardroom. So if you're a guy from I don't know which part of the world and you surround yourself with people who are like you, who think like you, then you're losing out a lot on bringing the diversity. So even without Gerard asking you how diverse your teams are, it's in your best interest to ensure you have diversity, not just in terms of gender, but in terms of thought process, in terms of backgrounds. It's for your good.
Yeah, I think I can cheat exams for you. What Milton and Gerald are essentially saying is this. Optics are very good. So it might not be a requirement, it might not be there, but I'm thinking if I'm somewhere sitting on a contracts committee, I'm looking for who I'm going to give a contract to, and I know that maybe Sibyl, for example, ticks every single box that there is to tick for diversity and all of those things, I think you might get a few extra marks by just being able to do that. It's my thinking. I think even subconsciously it would somehow play on the decision, even if you are neck and neck with another company and everything else is a tiebreaker, but you happen to be a bit more inclusive in your structure. I think it might give you a very slight advantage. Now, let me come to you. PPDA, it's been a long time coming, but we seem to finally be at a place where procurement for the government is going online. How has that been going so far? What challenges are some of the suppliers facing that you think you can advise them to take note of if they're going to succeed in getting contracts from the government?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As you know, part of the reforms that government has introduced is the introduction of the electronic government procurement system. And I'm happy to inform you that NSSF was part of the piloting entities on EGP and is currently using EGP for procurement right from planning up to contract management. EGP was rolled out in 2020, 17th of August, and the challenge that we are facing as entities is system uptake. Most of these suppliers do not submit their bids online. And if we do research further, they inform us that they do not have the capacity, the cost of using internet is really high, and then the skill and the capability to use EGP. I'm happy to inform you as suppliers and contractors that PPDA, in partnership with Ministry of Finance, Ministry of ICT and NITAYO, is conducting trainings for the providers every Friday from 9 to midday. So I'd urge you and implore you to always log into the system. Whenever you receive notifications, log into those Zoom links or the webinars so that you can always be trained on how to use the system. And for those that still have challenges on how to use the internet, feel free to always come to PPDA or at the project management unit at Crystal Towers to make any inquiries. You always be trained on how to use the EGP system, because we intend to ensure that all entities are using EGP by 2025. So this financial year, we are adding another 50 entities. So for you to get business, kindly register on EGP and attend the trainings on how to use the EGP system.
Thank you very much, Nanongo. It's very interesting how much this has leveled the playing field. The Gambanogo procurement in government, I think, has probably reduced by maybe 95% now, so anyone actually has a chance to be able to get work from the government. Let me come to Adrian very briefly. There's a bunch of questions for you. One, how are you doing your service delivery and customer service? Because you seem to have quite a big list of some heavy hitters on your client list. What are some of the tricks that you have been able to use to maintain such a rich client base? I've also got Edward Nsubuga, who is a cyber expert in IT, and he's asking if you have any avenues for subcontracting some cyber experts. What does that look like if someone needs to be able to come to you? And then also, what support do you have available to boost some startups? So if you have a small company that's starting here, how is CBIL able to support them to be able to keep up with what's happening with the latest trends? I know that many of us are probably using hacked versions of Windows, where your laptop says, please activate Windows. Yeah, from the laughter in the room, I can see like 3 or 4 culprits. So how does CBIL support people like this, and can it be a problem for them at some point? And as you try and process that, let me first come to Gerald and then to Dr. Daniel, and then I'll wrap up with you, Adrian, since you have the biggest number of questions. So Gerald, someone is asking, you mentioned that there are offers from NSSF to help some of the companies. When are these available? How are people able to tap into them? Also, when does your supplier database get updated? If you can kindly shed some light on that briefly.
Yes, thanks. My presentation, and related to the question that you've asked to Daniel, that which kind of support can we have for our local firms that are trying out to start a few things, innovative ideas. In my presentation, I mentioned that we've set aside 11 billion for high innovation projects, and it is open to every Ugandan that have some innovative idea that we believe that has business sense, both to us, to the country, and also that company. It's a grant, it's not a loan. That money, it's not a loan. So you use it, and we are looking at how you're growing. So when is it available? Even today. If you have an idea, don't sleep with it. The contact office at NSSF is the strategy team. It's on 14th floor for information. You can contact a person called Alex. If you go and ask for a person called Alex, he's the head of strategy. So they will take you through the process, and then the incubation process, the what, and then we have quite a number of hubs that we can assist you. So please, even today, you can walk through our offices and get assisted. Supplier database, by law, guided by PPDA, it is 3 years, but the law also does not bar anybody to participate if it's not on the database. Are we together? Even if you're not on our database, you can still do business with us. And then the second thing, the good thing with automation, anybody who is on the EGP is eligible. As long as you've registered with PPDA with it, and you're on EGP, you're getting notifications. Please knock on our doors. There's something Sibyl mentioned, maybe people didn't listen to it. This guy is aggressive, and some of you are not aggressive. You take these things for granted. You wait for us to invite you, to look for you. Guys, be in business, right? You wait for us to come to you. Say, hey, come and submit a bid. Be aggressive. Keep around us, right? Now I have this is what we are able, this is my capacity, this is the new idea I've gotten, this is the new innovation I have, I am able to do this every minute, every day. Don't get tired, isn't it? That's my advice to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. I think what Jared is basically saying is there's got to be a very huge component of sales and business development, and how that gets pursued might go a very long way. Dr. Daniel, someone is asking, this is Sydney, he's wondering, we tend to see places where developments are happening in places that they shouldn't be. NEMA seems to clamp down on some seem to, for lack of a better word, get away with it. How do we ensure balance in enforcement from your side? Especially considering the fact that if I reclaim a wetland, it's never coming back. How do we ensure that we work really hard to stamp out the practice of people destroying our environment?
Oh, thank you very much. As I said earlier, we have a law. And these wetlands which are being degraded are being done in contravention of the law. Some people have not been reached yet, but they are going to be reached. Let nobody be very proud that he has cut corners and has been able to cheat. It's just a matter of time, these people are going to be got. That one I promise you. The other issue of, it's a thinking among people that NEMA leaves some and goes for others. That's not our policy. The challenge we have, as I explained earlier, is the human resource availability. We are 130 people against 45 million Ugandans. And we have more than 130 districts in this country. So even if every officer went to one district one day, we would not be able to finish this.
The office would be empty and there would not be enough people to go around the country.
Exactly. So be sure one of these days, these guys will catch up with them.
That's very encouraging. I think it's very easy to hear the constraints on resource allocation. I guess it hinders the enforcement in a very big way. Let's come to you, Adrian. You have a bunch of questions. If you can kindly deal with those, and then we'll start getting some parting shots and take any extra questions if there are any urgent ones, because it's now lunchtime, and we don't want to be standing between you and a wonderful meal.
Okay, that's good. I want to start with the SLA.
You might want to just turn the microphone towards you a bit. Yeah.
I want to start with the service delivery component. Now, service delivery is a complex area. It involves a humongous expense, actually, I can call it. But what we have tried to do is, one, as I mentioned before, we need to have local resources in the country. So we have tried to train as much as we can. To what extent they can comprehend, to make sure that they can certify our current market or what we have supplied. Truth be told, yes, Uganda is not a big country, but the road network sometimes may fail you. We have sites, for example, as far as beyond Moroto, and in those places, we have to get guys there. For example, where there are banks, they cannot sleep there. Accommodation is a problem. Getting, even you yourself going there to sleep there is a problem. So they sleep in other towns. Now going inside there, it becomes, sometimes they're on the trucks. We have had scenarios where we have had people almost being shot. But we try as much as possible to make sure we commit by our SLA. So what we do with customers, we sign SLA agreements or service level agreements. And those service level agreements are tailored to what we can afford. We don't go and lie that I will be in Jinja in 10 minutes, when actually I know it takes me 2 hours to be in Jinja, even if it's near. So I tell you the truth, that I'll only be able to deliver in Jinja in 2 hours. That's one. So being truthful to the fact is very important. Having local resources who are able to certify is very important. Thirdly, having a backup support from the OEM. As I mentioned before, most of this software and all the hardware, nothing is supplied, is made locally in Uganda. So we need the skill set of the OEM manufacturer to come in, especially when things fail. Thirdly, what happened in COVID? No travel. So what do? Systems have to keep running. So we had, well before, all our engineers had what we called Cisco WebEx. Before Zoom was even in, there was something, TeamViewer. People had TeamViewer. We had been trained how to use remote tools. But customers were not adapting to it. Very few of them were willing to take sessions online. They would want physical resource. But when COVID came in, everybody got onboarded on Zoom. Online remote support calls became simple. So as I speak now, it's easier to initiate. Even a local person from the village, tell him, I want you to go on Zoom or AnyDesk or WebEx, you can have all those. So those have really helped us to cut down on the expense of having engineers there, even in remote sites. So that's helping for us. That's on the SLA side. So as I mentioned, we have remote support tools which help us where we cannot reach in time, but also to make sure our KPI is achieved in time. Now, the other next thing, we have an account manager responsible for a particular account. So like for NSSF, we have an account manager. In this place, I came with him actually, Mr. Safari. He can stand up for recognition, but he's an account manager for NSSF. So anything that happens in NSSF, from even an invoice, which has anything, he's responsible. Then next, we have a service delivery manager. Now the SDM's role is to make sure he gets complaints from you. Now if he gets a complaint, he may diffuse it. But that one does not report to me. She reports directly to the chairman of the company. Yes, she can come to me on some front, she can report to me, but in this end, she reports. And we made it such that there is complete transparency. If the customer complains that I have an issue, let it be known in transparent, not diffused. So there's an SDM to cater for that. Question number 2 was from Edward about cyber experts. Yes, we take in cyber experts. If you know what you want to do, you can apply. We usually advertise on LinkedIn most of the time. Our adverts on LinkedIn. So all you need is to follow the LinkedIn account for CBIL, and your application will be received in very well. But having truthful, as NSF gets in out of data, their surface attack increases. They are prone for hacking. So the more the data they innovate on AI, the more the surface attack increases. So your work as a consultant in cyber is important, and we need you guys. Then the next thing was on startups. We have had an issue, as he mentioned, that people are using Microsoft, which is not licensed. Licenses are very expensive. Compared to hardware, they can take up more than 80% of the whole cost in terms of licensing. So we usually advise startups to use open source. There's a lot of open source, whether in Microsoft, whether the equivalent of Microsoft. There's LibreOffice, there's OpenOffice, there's a lot of open source. I myself, who is speaking here, I last used Microsoft in 2008 on my laptop. Wow. I don't know how it works. I don't pay the company doesn't pay any license for Microsoft for me. So I'm completely OpenOffice. I use OpenSUSE, I use LibreOffice, and that, not even Ubuntu, OpenSUSE. And I do everything well from end to end. It's just a mindset from us. It has everything. You have Microsoft, you have projects, the equivalent of Microsoft. You have the equivalent of AutoCAD, equivalent of Visio. Everything is there. You can have all the tools from end to end to that without paying a single penny. Yeah. And by the way, if you come to me and they say I have hacked software, I will not support you, because my partnership with Microsoft tells me you are supposed to pay. You are supposed to be compliant. So why do you come to me when you are using hacked software? So I will not want to rate you. So I would rather advise you, please stay away from what is paying, go for open source tools. So that's for the startups. 2, government, I think, has an incubation center. I know it's there. As a startup, you can go there and create your machines, do that. They have an office, I know, somewhere in Nakawa. You can sit end to end, do your things without paying a single penny. Yeah. And you develop. So it's simple for you.
And a lot of this information is available online. So for example, for most of the open source software, if you spend maybe about an hour on the internet just doing some research, if you know your way around the internet, you should be able to find some very good tools ranging from everything to do with accounting to human resource management to logistics and all of that. There's always lots of tools that you can use. We are out of time, but I just wanted to run through some very basic things that have been shared here. This is Anita. You're asking about subcontracting. I think Adrian has mentioned this very well. If you, again, I think both Adrian and Gerald have mentioned this. 1, be aggressive. Yeah, if you have a skill and you know that it's useful, put it in people's faces so that they know it's available, but also follow the different channels so you can be able to get them. Milton, I'll ask you to deal with this. There's always the issue of securing our money. How do we ensure that our money is growing? And I think Patrick was mentioning earlier how the rate of growth has been declining even though the fund is growing bigger. Is there any possibility of maybe investing in diversified things? So for example, if half the people in these rooms have businesses that make a lot of sense, shall we ever see a time where NSSF buys shares in our businesses because they have a lot of potential? So even as you deal with that, there was an issue around voluntary savings. I think that one we've dealt with. So Humphrey and his team outside will answer any questions you have about voluntary savings, what you need to do, how long it takes, how to be able to access that service for you. And then there was an issue regarding NEMA, but I think this was dealt with regarding enforcement. I think Dr. Daniel handled this very, very well, especially regarding the fact that NEMA wants to enforce, but they are currently incapacitated because of the resources that they have. So I think that should pretty much take care of that. So yeah, Milton, you can maybe just deal with the issue of, can we, at the moment, we know you're mostly investing in very low risk things to make sure that our money doesn't disappear the way we've seen companies going bust in the US. I think in the last maybe 7 months or so, we've seen some of the biggest companies in the world, FTX, for example. Imagine if NSSF had taken a few of our trillions and invested in crypto. Would have probably hung you on a stake, wouldn't we? So I think it makes sense that why you're a bit more cautious about where you invest. Maybe you can just touch on that briefly.
Thank you. Briefly, I mean, pension money is a lifetime saving for all of us. You start saving when you're in your early 20s, knowing that on a rainy day when you're 60 or whatever, when you retire, you want to be sure that there's something for you. So what we do at the fund is to balance 2 things. On the one hand, you want the maximum returns on the investment. On the other hand, you have to ensure the security and safety of members' savings. Because there are things which could have given us 20%, even 30%, where we could invest your money. Yes, 1 day, 2 days, it might work, but there is that 4th day or 10th day where whatever it is that you build comes down. So NSSF has to balance. This is what we call the risk appetite, and it's a big topical issue in board meetings. What's the risk appetite for the fund, which balances maximizing returns versus security of your money. But having said that, the question about diversifying the fund's investments, I think Patrick spoke about it, and my colleague Gerard spoke about it as well. The fund has realized that the growth of employment in this country is not as fast as we want it to be. That's why the amount of money we collect from people who are in formal employment is increasing at a decreasing rate, and yet the benefits being paid is increasing at a much faster rate. The last thing you want is to be in a situation where you are collecting 100, but you're paying out 150. That's how funds go down and down and down. So NSSF, in partnership with MasterCard, is aggressively creating new jobs, creating new members. And the way we are doing it is partnering with people from ideation to prototyping to scaling and expanding. And the way the model works is a lot of Ugandans, I think the number is now about 150 businesses that we have funded. People are coming up with really brilliant ideas. We take them through a process, our High Innovator program. When your idea proves that it's a viable idea and it's a scalable idea, NSSF invests $20,000 on that business. Now, when we give the $20,000, it enables you to scale your business. And once it scales, then you can now access funding through people like Housing Finance Bank and other financial institutions. In that process, NSSF invests in that business as well, because we want to walk the journey with you. So we diversify it in the multitude of businesses that we do, but just remember that we want to make sure that anyone who saves with us, when they get to the age when they access their money must be there. And their money must have grown in decent amounts within the safety limits that we guarantee to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. There was a question here about people living in very bad livelihoods and slums, and they're asking, is NSSF planning to do very low-cost housing for us? Is that in the plan anywhere along the way?
Yeah, NSSF's ambition is to try and, I think Iota talked about it, to make lives better by making savings. So we do, but it has to be a step at a time. It's hard that you'll do everything at the same time. So for now, what we are looking at is supporting small businesses in Uganda to gain traction and grow. Who knows? The next phase will be something about infrastructure. I know there are discussions on that. The government borrowed money to do Entebbe Express Highway. If you Google, it's the most expensive highway in the world. Maybe we could have mobilized resources locally and done it at a better price. We are talking about grain. There are lots of things that are being conversed, which probably is not for discussion here. Yeah. But short answer is, one day we'll get there. For now, there are others which are on the pipeline.
Baby steps. Thank you very much. One last question for you, Gerard. Someone is a bit concerned. I think they've probably had situations where they have been told that they are not pre-qualified despite being an EGP. Is it automatic that if I'm an EGP, I can instantly qualify to be a supplier for NSSF, or are the two systems independent and therefore they still have to go through the process?
It's strange. Let's have a one-on-one conversation to get some little detail. Yeah. Because I know by law, every firm is eligible, especially if they have the capability to participate into the bidding. So a database on pre-qualified firms is something that to ease our business, our work, to quickly identify. But any other firm can participate, especially when they qualify. I think if that happened in my office, in our organization, it would have been an error. But I would encourage that when we have some little time, let's engage, have one-on-one, and we talk. You cannot be disqualified because of being if you're not pre-qualified. It's not necessary.
That's very encouraging to hear. And again, so Gerard is here for, over lunch, you can be able to engage and ask any more questions that you might have. I'll finish with some suggestions for NEMA before I ask our chairperson for the Contracts Committee to come and say hello and invite us to lunch. You have the most important task for the day, obviously. For you, Doctor, people are shocked that NEMA has 130 people. I think the person who sent this note, if they had a choice, they would have written it in vernacular, because it's in caps, in capital letters. Like, how can there be only 130 people at NEMA to serve the entire country? And they're saying, surely there must be a way that you can maybe partner with other enforcing institutions to help implement some of the things that you're doing. And then someone is also suggesting that maybe, is there a way you can motivate citizens to be whistleblowers? Can you have a whistleblower scheme where people are rewarded if they are able to report those who are encroaching on wetlands at night? And they're saying, and I think all of us have seen this, you pass somewhere, you go to bed, you drive by in the morning, the following day, and there's a new fence and soil has covered the entire wetlands. I don't know what witchcraft they used to do it overnight. But seriously, like, you just pass and literally overnight, they've covered an entire wetland. So they're saying maybe if there's a way that maybe NEMA could empower people to be able to report some of these things, it might be very useful. Let's give a very big hand clap to our panel. I know we have a lot more questions. And this is just supposed to be a precursor to an engagement. So over lunch, you can be able to engage any of our speakers on our panel, ask any questions, make suggestions if you want to have any of those. We also want to kindly request you to fill out that feedback form. It helps us to be able to know if this has been beneficial for you, what things you think we should include, what you have liked that you want to see more of subsequently, and how we can engage with you even before the next Suppliers Forum. But for now, allow me to welcome Mr. David Masiko to come and sort of say hello and goodbye and invite you to lunch, and then we'll go have our meal, which is being served down at, actually, let me let David say hello first, and then I'll give you instructions on where you can go pick your meal.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Masiko, and I'm the chairperson of the Contracts Committee at NSSF. And it's a 5-person committee. Our role really is to make sure that NSSF is a sound procuring disposable entity. And we work largely with PPDA law and PPDA guidelines. So I want to first appreciate all of you for the interactions that you've had today. I think they were really engaging. And so I want to thank you for that. When you look at the theme for today, adapting to global trends, I think it's really, really timely for us, because the world is changing rapidly. And as an organization, we're changing as well, okay? So it's very, very important for the fund, or NSSF, to adapt in order for us to stay competitive. For the discussions that we've had, the panel of the presenters that we had, right from the acting managing director to the head of PDU, Mr. Gerald, right over here, and to our presenters, we want to say thank you so much for the presentations. For the participants, all the questions that have been coming in, we want to say thank you so much for those as well. And I think I would be remiss not to appreciate the organizing committee, and that's the PDU team, the procurement team, of course under the able leadership of Gerald. I think they deserve a very tremendous applause for putting this together, alongside the marketing team as well. I see you all at the back. Thank you so much for putting this together. So in closing, we know that digitalization has come, and I think we've been talking about this, adapting to global trends. Digitalization has come, innovation has come, and as an organization, we're doing exactly that. So the question I leave with the suppliers in this room is, are you ready to take up these opportunities that the new trends have brought? Because as a fund, we are ready to do that. So on behalf of the Contracts Committee, I think I see a few members here. I see George here. On behalf of the Contracts Committee and the Organizing Committee, I want to thank you for, one, honoring our invitation to come and be a part of the 7th Supplier Forum. And I would like to wish you a good afternoon, but a lovely lunch as well. Bon appetit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And another big hand clap to our panel, who, for doing an incredible job, I will ask to lead us to lunch. They'll be served first because they have